Vosh is like if Van Gogh used Reddit. Thank you, Keffels. What's up, everyone? Oh, hello, Artemy. I guess he's joining us for this stream as well. Hey, hey. See, look, while I keep my head strategically tilted in this direction, you can't tell that I actually have a bandage on my other ear. It's nice having it on my right ear, at least, because that's not the direction my camera faces. You know, that's an improvement. What's up? Also, hi, Keffels. Show the gore? No. Vosh, I mean, you don't do the art much anymore. Blablato, actually, believe it or not, I was requested recently to do an art project for somebody else's benefit that I'll be done with soon. It'll be up to them to reveal it, so I can't reveal it, but I'm looking forward to it. You know, I feel like we've got some good stuff there potentially. Hey, 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 everyone, how we doing? Yeah, okay. I didn't mean to be gone for so long. I actually here's the thing, okay? So the surgery that was done to my ear, okay? It's called cryogenesis or some shit like that. No, cryo can fucking I don't know. It sounds like a D&D spell. But importantly, what it does is it takes a keloid and it's like, okay, we're just going to freeze it with a bunch of liquid nitrogen. It sounds simple because it is. And what that does is it kills every cell because the blood freezes. And when the blood freezes, it expands because blood is mostly water, and that destroys the cell linings in all the cells in the keloid. So there's not actually any pain because with a cut, like you haven't destroyed the cells, you've just separated two parts of your body with like traditional surgery. But the point of like the freezing thing is you destroy all the cells, you know? Um, so there's like no pain. So I wanted to start streaming like pretty much immediately, but then I got hit with at the same time the worst allergy fit I have ever had in my life. I could not even like I literally could not see because my eyes were so like squinty. It's not just like sniffles. Like I was like not capable of doing things, you know? I've never had one that bad before, but I feel like we're calming down now. Like I had yeah, it was like a 5-day block of just unusability, like for me personally. I could not have streamed. 0% chance. Zerdek is your friend. Trust, I've got plenty of anti-allergen meds right here. Don't worry. Um, but I think we're rounding that out. So I'm gonna do a short stream today to make sure that I'm like good for talking a bunch because I've been trying to avoid talking. Um, Vosh is white now. True. And yeah, we'll see and can get back to it properly tomorrow because there's actually a lot of politics happening tomorrow. You know. Um, did the site change how the 2 times combo, how the combo looks? It did? Okay, that's not just me then. Okay, hell yeah. Looks good. Why Nervosa update? It looks good. Yeah, okay. Just yeah. That'll incentivize you guys to combo a little bit harder. Finland gonna join NATO soon? Yeah, yeah. Um yeah, a lot of political stuff tomorrow as well to cover, a lot of elections. We can see the results of the progressive victory organizing, see if we get the right, you know, the right judge in, the right you know, the right victor. Yeah, NATO rising. True. They already have joined NATO, I thought. I think it's like a process, but like they are, you know. Um David Pakman was canceled. Oh no. I'm leaving YouTube. The mob won. The show is over. Nice meme. He'll get some good ad revenue from that one, I'm sure. He's fine. Pardon me. You'll be happy to hear that the cats have been doing wonderfully. Vosh, this is important. Is it? Post-op trans girl Vosh fan who names her new vagina the Vosh bit. Aspirationally, you know these hoes would do anything to get me in there. Oh my god, this is from 2021. True. You know how these bitches be. Soveball, holy shit, thank you so much for the $69 donation. That's the sex number. Hey Vosh, this is going to be my last dono for a couple months because I'm headed to USAF Basic. Next time I watch you, I'll be NATO's strongest soldier. Okay, good luck. Good luck, friend. You know, I've stereotyped the Air Force as being full of psychotics before, so stay away from the people. Stay away from the people who enlisted because they saw Top Gun, like the new Top Gun. You know, you'll be able to tell because they'll tell you about it. And stay strong, and we're rooting for you. Okay, come back safe, soldier. Um, yeah, My goodness. Thank you for the kindness. Lackland is easy AF. The Air Force isn't a real branch. Hey, man, listen, okay? The more Voshites make it out of basic alive, all right, and deployment alive, the better, okay? Oh, man. It's a good movie. I actually haven't seen either Top Gun. I know I'm annoying about the H3 plugging, but they had Dr. Wolf on leftovers, and the Ukraine rhetoric's horrible. Actually, I was going to go over that.
It used to be.
Yeah, I was going to go over, I had that open, but you have a timestamp for me, so I'll take a look at that. Yeah. Fucking awful. Was it really that bad? Was it really that bad? Okay, well, we'll take a look in a second. I was balding, not gonna lie. Well. How do you think Trump's unlikeliness to obey a gag order is going to affect his trial going forward? I have no idea. Listen, we're in genuinely uncharted territory. I don't want to besmirch my generally good predictive powers by taking wild guesses when there's so little to base them off of. I have no idea what we're doing from here on out. Yeah. Is Chad allowed to act like petulant babies today? Well, I was sick recently, so I'd appreciate it if you gave me kind of a warm introduction back in. One other thing. One thing that I tried to do to like get my body and mind back on track during the allergies is I started up a new Elden Ring Soul Level 1 playthrough because I never beat the last one fully. I never beat Melania. I never beat I never beat Radagon Elden Beast. And I also got accidental cheat kills on Fire Giant and the Godskin duo because on the patch that I was playing, they had it so that if you procced Bleed or Frost during a boss's phase transition, it would take away all their health rather than part of it. And I got really mad when that happened with the Fire Giant because I'd practiced on him for so long, and then like I just happened to get a bleed proc in the right way on the phase transition. He just fucking died. It was like, okay, like you can't unkill a boss, you know. But then when it happened to the Godskin duo, I was happy because fuck them. But I beat the Fire Giant properly this time. Like a man, I fought him face to face. I didn't go around and stab his foot on the second phase. I fought him like a fucking man. He was elbow dropping me the whole time, and I was rolling and stabbing his arms. It felt great. And I beat him no hit. But it has to be no hit because all of his attacks do like one hit damage to you if you're Soul Level 1. So now I'm stuck on Godskin Duo. I mean, not stuck. I've only done 3 attempts, but I have the Saint Trina's sword. I wanted to do stuff like that because I felt like it would get my mind back on track. Like, you kind of have to pay attention doing Soul Level 1 Elden Ring, you know? Soul Level 1 Elden Ring, no magic, no items, no summons. So I have nothing but my weapon and my Ash of War and my talismans. And that's all I get. Truly the Miyazaki intended Elden Ring experience. No shield. Oh, no shield, no blocking, no parrying. Sorry. There we go. Yeah. All rolls. Why not give the Dark Moon Greatsword a try? Because that requires more than the starting stats that I have to be wielded. Is it really intended? No, it's psychotic, but I am having fun. Why no parrying? Because I feel like parrying trivializes some. No, we're not getting into it. Okay. Okay, what is this? Terrible news. Oh, okay. We're got to be careful with the links. It's a short stream. Yeah, I saw this one. Is this game woke? Between Dead Space's woke bathrooms, Hogwarts Legacy's woke genders, and RE4's woke soundtrack, I'm starting to doubt if I'll be able to play any new games this year. I have no idea if this is real, but people do talk like this in the Steam forum, so it's kind of difficult to tell. This was for Dredge, a horror fishing game, and it's real? Gotcha, nice. It's been confirmed by other people that the user doing the woke rant was actually a progressive doing an April Fool's meme. Ah, gotcha. Okay. You could toss it like 50-50 on that. I mean, the joke still works for me because every day I go on Twitter and I see people acting that out unironically. You know what I mean? So that specific one, you know, might have been a joke, but it's still still speaks to me, to an underlying truth that I believe in. Vosh, any chance we could slander Genshin Impact players less often? It's frustrating having my favorite streamer call me a pedo. Okay, I will listen. Let's be fair for a second, okay? From what I've seen of Genshin Impact, which I haven't played, okay? Um, it seems like so okay, it is a gotcha game, which is degenerate in and of itself. However, it does look pretty, and sometimes the gameplay looks fun from what I saw. Like it looks like they took some of the better elements from the world in Breath of the Wild and they improved on the combat in some respects, and that seems nice. And also to be fair, okay? Also to be fair, is Genshin Impact really like any more pedophilic than like any other fucking Japanese game, okay? Because if you take a look at like any Japanese game, it's going to have like fucking lolicons. So it's so I feel like Genshin Impact's just really popular, so it gets that beat. But like, honest to God, it's like an entire fucking genre thing. And by Japanese, I mean anime game, not Japanese game. After all, Zelda is also a Japanese game, you know. Certainly not any less so than most gacha games. But yeah. Well, obviously, the kind of people who like gacha. Oh, you're right. Genshin Impact is Chinese. It's not Japanese, right? Oh, okay. So maybe it's more pedophilic than your average Chinese game, but normal pedophilic for your average like Japanese anime game. So we're kind of grading on a curve here, right? Where it's like, okay, well for maybe like, well, I don't know, maybe Chinese anime is also really. I don't actually know anything about like the. When I think of Chinese anime, I basically just think of like gotcha games, content farms, and stuff that feels like it was made by AI. I don't know of a single Chinese anime studio that has like auteurs and artistry. There probably is. I just don't know about it. I don't know. There is? I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, I did see the Karl Marx anime that was put out by the Young Communist League of China. I did see that. What that was like some Fujoshi shit, wasn't it? That was really funny. It's like how do we get the word of Karl Marx across to the youth? Will be a fucking hot Bishonen guy. He is hot. I mean, I don't think he looked like that though. Maybe he did. We only have like paintings of Karl Marx when he was old. Maybe he looked exactly like this when he was 23, you know? Like like an anime character running around a world of men. We don't know. That's seinen, not shonen. Yeah, it's for an older audience. I may be biased, but I think Genshin is way less weird with its child characters than a lot of anime games. I recently saw Joseph Anderson just started playing 13 Sentinels, which is fucking wild, okay? I'm not even going to get into the plot stuff, but basically it's like it's literally like piloting teenagers piloting mechas to fight against alien invaders, which they do by activating a button that's on their body, which of course the guys have on like their wrists and the girls all have on like, oh, here it's on my belly, it's on my like upper thigh, and then they get teleported into the robot naked, and then you fight this like Into the Breach style grid tactical RPG with gigantic HUD avatars of your pilots naked inside a control booth up in the top, like left or right or whatever. And this is fucking the most anime shit. It was like ripping off so much stuff all at once. I think they literally said Men in Black like twice, I think, in like the opening. Um, I smell burnt toast. Yeah, it was pretty bad. They did have one character whose character like arc seems to be about breasting boobily. But thankfully I think she's an adult. Hold on. 13 Sentinels leather one piece suit. Can I That's not even remotely what I'm thinking of. Um cat suit? Cat suit girl? Yeah, this is what she looks like. Fucking phenomenal. She's an adult. It's okay. She's the one adult, but this is what she looks like. So everyone else is it's a really gorgeous painterly style too. Like the actual art style of the game is phenomenal. I'm not dissing it at all. And then like and you'll have like some serious looking people standing around and she'll walk in. She has jiggle physics on a 2D painterly art style where her ass, look at her hips, dude. Holy shit. her fucking lab coat is getting like stretched outwards. Like, Jesus Christ. I'm not even mad, dude. If you can do shit like this and they're adults, I don't care. Legit, I don't care. If you have a woman walk in and she's like, she breasts boobily from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, jiggling the entire way, and then talks about like time travel mechanics when she gets to the right side of the screen. If she's an adult, I do not care. I don't give a shit. I'm fine with fan service. I'm completely fine with it. Um, it's just, yeah. I like her braid most, fight me. Um, yeah, well, the art style is really nice. But most of the characters sexualized in the shit are young girl. Yep, I think she's literally like the only adult female character. I don't know if she later gets like fucking attacked by the narrative and made to be in a naked mecha or whatever. But there's one chubby girl who I actually thought had a really cute design. Oh, thank God. I Googled her, and it's just her in clothes. Oh my God. Thank the Lord. Wait, why is it so pixelated? It's a really cute design. I wanted some positivity at the end here. Why the fuck is it so pixelated? Sawatari Miwako. God damn it. Watari Miwako? That sounds like trying to do baby voice, but like in Japanese. Sawatawi Miwako. Dude, that literally sounds like baby talk. Is that seriously her name? Ooh woo. Ooh woo. Why is all the art here dog shit? There we go, finally. Jesus Christ, that took forever. That's a cute character design. This is what I mean about the game actually being really pretty. See, she's like, normally anime girls are like sticks, but like she's kind of chubby. She has like flowers in her hair. That's really cute. Okay, but she's cute. That's what I'm saying. That's the point of what I'm saying here. Apparently, she doesn't even get made a naked fucking mecha pilot too, which like, thank God, you know? We've won. What game is this? Um, 13 Sentinels. It's got a lot of weird anime bullshit there. So, um, we're in a video game / anime stun. It's 15 minutes into the stream, okay? And I've been sick for a little while, okay? What's the chubby girl from Stars Align? Is that, is this a GIF? Why is it not playing? There we go. Did that play audio? It didn't? Okay, thank God. That anime that got canceled? Well, a lot of anime gets canceled. But she does a dance. She's like chubby anime girl? I don't know. She kind of rocks it too. Honest to God. What do you think of Hell of a Boss? I like Hell of a Boss. She's not chubby. She looks like a normal. She's visibly chubby compared to every other. No, no, no. Compared to everyone else in the show, it's okay. And people are like, "Is it chubby?" Okay, here, hold on. Kinuyo Kasuga. So everyone else is anorexic. It's anime, man. Maybe it's more clear when seeing them not dancing. Like, see the rounder face, and also the line doesn't connect. But it's like a respectful depiction of a chubby person because they're not just like drawn to like where it's a joke. And she's the class president. Yeah, she's also a fucking bitch. Yeah, bro, anime is not body positive. Stars Align is. Stars Align's it's a good thing. There's a trans character. There's a trans main character and a non-binary main character. No, there's a trans side character and a non-binary main character. Okay, there's a lot. Okay, Yeah. It's a tennis anime. Why are there no shots of her standing next to somebody else? I know there are plenty in the anime. Yeah, whatever. Okay, that's enough. Stop. No more anime. Stop. Vosh is really depressive that I just kind of learned to ignore weird sexualization of children in anime games. Like Persona 5 is one of my favorite games, but if An wasn't any Western game, I know I'd never accept it. Yeah, it's really fucking dumb. There have been a lot of cultural changes in Japanese media that have gotten better about this over time, I think. The main issue is just that like a large portion of anime studios are only able to make their money back on their investment through mega fans that buy like Blu-rays and shit and like merchandise. And unfortunately, the demographic most likely to be that kind of ultra hardcore fan are otakus, and otakus are fucking pedophiles. So like to bait them, they like go in that direction. I think often. There's also just a really strong cultural normalization of high school being like the last time in your life that you're free in Japan, which is why it's so common to have stories set in high school no matter what the subject is. Like they'll have anime that will be about like time travel or technology or whatever, and it's like 17-year-olds doing it. It's like, well, why? And the reason for that is because Japanese work culture is really really oppressive. And basically people often think of those times of their life as being like the only ones where there's like room. Okay, you know how like the incel crisis over here is pretty bad because after you get out of college or if you don't go to college or whatever, like people have trouble socializing because we don't really have like physical spaces where it's normalized for people to congregate. We don't really have a town hall anymore. So people just kind of stay in their homes and everything gets delivered to them and they don't really interact, socialize or whatever. In Japan it's like that, but 10 times as bad. Everything over here that makes this bad is worse over there on like every level. The physical spaces are even more like commodified and spread out. People are even more isolated and like alienated from the products of their culture. Work culture is even worse. People work longer hours. um the dating culture over there is even more like staunch and conservative, so it's harder for people to approach each other. And not to be like, like for men specifically, not to be like glib or whatever, but like porn does a lot of bad stuff to people over here. It does a lot of worse stuff over there. Okay, think of how like Asian men are presented in pornography, and like ask yourself if that might do anything to like your average Japanese neats, like masculinity crisis or whatever. Like imagine how they feel about that. In basically any kind of like international interracial context, like Asian people are presented as being the weaker or less masculine. So like because over here it's like, oh well, the black guy's the most masculine. Okay, but white people are often presented neutrally, whereas like in the international context, that's not the case with Asian people. So I think a lot of the factors over there are like worse than they are over here when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I think all of this like contributes to why there's that really weird fucking otaku lolicon culture over there. None of this, by the way, is a defense. I still think it's super fucking creepy. But obviously, like even really creepy things can be explained by like socioeconomic factors. That things don't just happen. So I think that's why things have borne out that way to yeah to a large extent. So you'd move to Japan? No, I would not. I'd like to visit. I would love to visit Japan again. I don't want to live there though, not at all. Um, but most people in Japan have Asian ethnicity. Okay, think of it this way. Okay, um, the average dick size in America is like, I don't know, 5.5 inches or something. But in porn, it's like, I don't know, like 7, 8, whatever inches. And a ton of guys with average sized dicks here in America think their dick is small because porn sets the standard so high. So if you're in an environment where porn is setting a standard that has nothing to do with like the reality of the area that you live in, it still like fucks with people's head. So likewise in Japan. Like it's not as though just because Japan is mostly Japanese people that Japanese like young men who talk on the Western websites as well, or even just aware of what's going on in the world, aren't aware of the stereotypes of Asian men being considered less masculine. Um, which probably not good for their mental health. A lot of Japanese porn is weird rapey stuff. Yeah, and that's not for no reason either. One of the reasons why there's so much like non-con and weird rapey stuff and ooh ah, my hips are moving on their own bullshit in hentai and Japanese porn, is because they have a really conservative dating culture. So it's considered impure or kind of like lascivious or improper for women to be like sexually interested. So like the idea of like if a woman is openly interested in having sex in Japan, that's like a big culturally deviant thing. To an extent we have that over here in the West, but there is a big difference. Like over here in the West, even in like Republican-esque circles, the idea of like a girl wanting to go on a date because she wants to get laid, that's like I think most Americans like that's not like that crazy of an idea. Sure, she'll face sexism, there will be slut shaming, but like that's not like an insane concept. Whereas I genuinely think in like a lot of Japan, the idea of a girl like actively going out to get laid, like that's I'm not trying to play the stereotype here, but they are more conservative when it comes to their dating standards. So I think it's considered like unwomanly for a woman to indicate that she's interested in sex, which is why there's so much rapey stuff in their porn, which goes to show just how bad that standard is, right? Like it's the preserving your femininity by being raped. Probably has a lot to do with like frustration from men as well. The idea that like they can't like ask anyone out or get a date, so it's like, ah, well, I'll just rape you, whatever. Again, not defending it, but like in like an environment where there's so much pent up frustration about gender standards and like sexual dating habits and courting rituals and stuff, the idea of like fetishizing that behavior, I mean, it sounds like a kind of like a one leads to the other thing, which is not good. Yeah, in porn, you don't see the labia minora, so there's been an upsurge of young women getting labiaplasties where their inner labia is cut off due to thinking you're not meant to see it. That is so fucking weird. That is so goddamn strange. Um, yeah. Or people like bleaching their assholes or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. So guys, they want more sex, but they also slut shame women who have more sex. Yep, seems about right. That happens here. The same people online who are like bitter fucking virgins, the guys, are the same types of guys who will like shit on women for being lascivious or slutty or whatever. It's the same exact same thing. We are all the same. Let shared misogyny unite us. We are all one people, one global species. Um, yeah. Yeah, the Madonna whore complex. What do you mean by somebody being a neat? Not NEAT, it's NEET. It's no education, employment, or training. It basically just means like a shut-in, like somebody who's not doing anything. The Japanese term is hikikomori. It means basically the same thing. It's an overlap, like it overlap with the term incel, like over here. They don't mean the same thing, but functionally, we're generally talking about similar groups of people. Um, we're gesturing in the same direction. Get a new chair? Never. Um, yeah. You should check out the Witch Hat Atelier manga. It's very cute and progressively written. It does look cute. I don't know if I'd check out a manga just because it looks cute, but it does look cute. That's cute. I like the color teal. That's a good color for a cloak. Good. So what was up with Abe wanting to encourage people to have sex slash reproduce? Was he a radical for that? No, basically, like basically everybody in Japan wants them to have a higher national birth rate. Like Abe was more known for it, but it's a pretty like it's a pretty like broadly accepted premise, you know. Normally I think it's kind of bullshit because immigration usually does a really good job of shoring up like a slightly below average replacement rate, but Japan genuinely is in a really bad spot with regards to their population curve. So, you know, it's yeah. Wasn't he refusing to fix the reasons why they have a low birth rate? Well, the problem is like this is something that like fascists can never get over, right? Like Russia's tried to do this too, okay? The fact like the because fascists are incapable of sociological analysis. Abe wasn't a fascist. He just was friends with like all the Japanese fascists and got along with them and did a lot of stuff they agreed with and believed a lot of the things they believed. But he wasn't a fascist. Okay. Um, the problem is that like they're incapable of sociological analysis. They don't understand why birth rates go down. So a social conservative like Abe could never like meaningfully critique or change the factors within Japanese life that lead to a low birth rate. It's economic and it's social, but they don't like they don't want to fix it because like that's conservatism for you right there, like a disregard for the public good. Um, so they just say like, "Hey, can we please fuck? Hey, we'll reward people for fucking," but it never works. Not really. It's not a long-term sustainable solution. If you want the birth rates to go up, then you have to like systemically address, well, why are people fucking less? And well, it's because everyone in your fucking country works 64 hours a week, and in your dating life slash culture bullshit is so fucked. Like nobody's talking to each other or meeting each other. I mean, like this is a country that's so known for its like socially reclusive tendencies that I remember articles being written on a, let's be fair here, probably very uncommon but nonetheless at least existent and acknowledged um trend of like women sexually servicing their sons while they were getting ready for their like college entrance exams because they didn't want their sons to get distracted with a girlfriend. I remember there being articles on that, like, yeah, don't get distracted with a girlfriend. Like, what? Just focus on your studies or whatever. Which absolutely sounds like the premise to a fucking hentai dojin or whatever. But I do remember shit being written on that. Again, this probably happened like maybe 5 times. But the fact that it was even written on, at the very least, indicates a national anxiety about that kind of behavior. Yeah, for sure, Zoth. I'll just let chat recover from all that, I guess. They're taking a while. Hey, Willful. We will never be okay? Yeah, probably not. Sounds like Chris Chan shit, lol. It's reverse Chris Chan shit in this case, actually. Link, or we're assuming it's. I'm not googling that. You can Google that if you want. All right, so it was porn. No, okay, yeah, sure. You're not reverse. Yeah, you just want to jerk off to whatever I fucking find for you. Okay, no. What the fuck? Okay, we're moving past that. We're moving past. We're clearing these links. This pilot has a once in a lifetime opportunity to do the funniest thing of all time. Oh god, yes. Sorry guys, no arrest. Um despite all of DeSantis's chest puffing over not complying with extradition, Donald Trump is choosing to fly over to New York City um to turn himself in on 30 plus criminal charges. Why 30? Wait, where's this 30 coming from? Why does it say 30? It's 34 felonies? Okay, wait. Am I behind? Okay, I've been sick. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry. I've been sick. What? Um what? The only thing I know about was the grand jury on the Stormy Daniels stuff. What's going on? 34 felonies? Odds the indictment covers multiple hush money payments like Karen McDougal have gone. Wait, do we not have the full list of the wait, do we know what the full list of the felonies are? Look up Trump Rule 3. Find out how many rules Trump broke, right? Trump Rule 34. Um, it's not been unsealed not till Tuesday. Fuck. Okay, well, we got a lot to stream tomorrow then. Um, Jesus. I knew that it would be more than just the one charge because that much of a delay for just that. I knew it'd be more than that, but like 34. CNN reported it was 34 but didn't corroborate. Gotcha. Okay, well, somewhere in that ballpark then. Huh. Well, shit. I guess we'll have a real stream tomorrow, huh? Yes, I see the AOC burner account thing. I don't even find it interesting enough to cover. There was a random Twitter account, just a random Twitter account, and it said something like, I don't know, Matt Walsh is bad, unalive yourself, whatever, Zaza demon or whatever. Yeah, and then and then conservatives were like, ah, well, this is actually secretly Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez answer for her crimes. Also, apparently this person was a fan of mine. So, thanks, AOC. In secret, we collaborate. There's really nothing to talk about here. They're just like converging on one random account. Your old friend Nico House said it was AOC. Well, Nico House is a fascist, so it makes sense he would play into this. Oh, Doug Tennepool. This is the guy I debated who was a fucking idiot. He made the Earthworm Jim series. A generation of illustrators who trace Pokemon are angry they will be replaced by a generation of AI that traces Pokemon. This has zero effect in the actual arts. Damn, you can tell that this guy is definitely a guy who knows a lot about how art works and also industries in general. He doesn't even have Earthworm Jim creator listed on his thing anymore. Creator of NFTs. That's the first thing that he lists. This guy had a hand in the creation of a beloved like classic video game series. And the first thing he opens with is NFTs, comics, animation, video games, and fine art. I bet you he's selling these NFTs on his website, like really peddling the yep. Wow, I didn't think it would be everything. I didn't think it would be the whole website. So that's why NFT is first, because that's what he's currently trying to make money off of. There he is. There's the guy who did the website, you know, in third image out of 4. What's the fourth one? We're going to move to the fourth one. There we go. Comics and graphic novels as well. But more importantly, the Board Doodle Punk Club. This looks like shit. Even by NFT standards, man. Eternal Clay. Jesus, that's grim. What is this? I think I saw some controversy about this. I don't know all the details. Apparently, okay, so there was a white lady who BM'd people, and that was fine, but then there's a black lady who BM'd people, and that's not fine? What's happening?
Racist taunting of Caitlin Clark.
I have no problem whatsoever. Skip, I want to preface everything that I say. Caitlin Clark.
Okay, as somebody who doesn't follow sports at all, I just want to say, I really like watching, is this ESPN? I don't know what this is. I like watching talk shows on sports. This is Fox Sports. The reason I like watching talk shows on sports is because they usually have former athletes in suits and they look amazing. You have all these like weaklings, these anchors that are just sitting there limply. And then you have people who are obviously former athletes. Am I wrong? He is, I assume. I don't know any of these people, but like, look at his shoulders. Yeah, just sitting there being huge, you know? Yeah, okay, yeah. He used to be in the NFL. Well, that explains the shoulders. Right there.
Was sensational. She should have been a unanimous player of the year. Nobody should have got any votes. If you look at the way she played all year, and if she solidified that, she answered
He's hot too. Yes, he is.
All the questions, she checked all the boxes in the tournament. She should have been a player of the year. So, young lady, what you did, how you represented the game of women's college basketball, you should be commended. So I don't want you to take anything that I'm about to say personal, because this is not about you.
That's fair. I agree. Go ahead.
This is about the portrayal of how women, we see it two different ways. 48 hours ago, when Caitlin Clark did this, John Cena, it was considered swag. 48 hours later, Angel Reese does the exact same gesture. It's classless. Keith Olbermann went as far as...
Okay, I feel like people need some context on this. Okay, hold on. So I saw this on Twitter. This is WNBA, right? It was basically this, okay? Okay, yeah, this lady. I guess she's good at sports. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything. College ball? Okay. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about sports. But she did this.
And Angel Reese knows a ring is coming.
Now, I don't know anything about sports, but obviously that's BM. I mean, clearly, you can read that the body language pretty well. And apparently a bunch of people got really mad because they were like, "Oh man, that's so classless. That's so ghetto. What is BM? Bad manners. Like bad manners. Like trash. It's trashing. Yeah, bowel movement. Yes. It's like defecating on them. It's shit talk. It's something. Anyway, like a white lady did this before and people were fine, but because like a black lady did it, people are like really mad about it. The white girl's also done the same time. Yeah. I mean,
to say she was an idiot, not just an idiot.
Oh, of course. After letting this play for 1 minute, I would pause and show the video 8 picoseconds before they also... Okay. Thank you.
Effing idiot. For you to stoop so low to call a college kid a female because she did a gesture, when you didn't say anything when Caitlin Clark did it. It's funny how, Skip, it's funny how America, society sees black and white. White person does the exact same gesture. Skip, you know one of the greatest talkers in the NBA?
It's such a non-story, though. I actually disagree. Because, for the most part, when it comes to like racist presentation in story in like media or whatever, like you can't just point at a black person and go like, haha, they're worse. Like usually it's through like coded stuff, So calling black women classless, I think, is actually one of the most... I think that's like the biggest thing they get hit with, when it comes to like, how do I racially code an insult without directly saying... I think that's actually it. Yeah, it's with black women like classless. So the people who called her, who were the people who called her on this? There were like some big sports people who were saying like, oh, this is classless, this is disgusting or whatever. This, this is Keith Olbermann. Yeah, Keith, you guys have heard, even you non-sports people, like you've heard of Keith before, right? Like even I know that name. No, I don't know who that is. He's he's a barstool. No, I think that's another guy. Shaq responded to him. Yeah, shut your dumb ass up, leave Angel Reese alone, which is a good argument, I don't even follow sports stuff, and I saw a lot of people talking about this. There were other people too. Black women are often seen as classless, angry, loud, etc. Yeah, one thing that I always thought was really weird, and I don't really know what like the intersectional... I don't know where the point is on this, but okay, oftentimes... Okay, so there are like... If you want to talk about like cultures broadly, I think you could fairly say white people tend to be like relatively reserved compared to Latin or Black Americans when it comes to like if you go to a neighborhood that's mostly white people compared to like a neighborhood that's mostly Black or Latin people, I think there's way more of like a community, like people enthusiastically communicating, socializing with each other than in like white neighborhoods or I just imagine like barren, sterile suburbs or whatever. But the thing that was always weird to me is that like if I had to put money on it or something, and I think like, okay, well, if you wanted to say like, are black women louder? Are Latin women louder compared to white women? I mean, I don't know. I've seen lots of loud white women, but why is it that loud Latin women get called fiery, but loud black women get called classless? Isn't that weird? Because we also have a stereotype of Latin women being really like aggro, loud, over the top, but I don't hear classless as often, or ghetto or whatever. I hear, you know, there are plenty of Latin women in the ghetto. It's not like there's no association there. Um, I hear fiery, like it's fetishized, like it's like a borderline positive. I don't know. Really weird. Really, really weird how that stuff plays out.
History, you covered the guy, was Larry Bird. He was never criticized. One of the greatest talkers in NFL football is who? Phillip Rivers. He was never criticized. Angel Reese talked about this all year. Skip, if you remember 48 hours earlier, Don Staley foretold of this. Many chalked it up as being sour grapes because she had lost. And lo and behold, everything that she spoke of came to fruition the moment Angel Reese did that gesture.
This really highlights the difference between the two teams. I can't get over Iowa and LSU facing each other in the women's national championship games. A tale of two cultures. Oh, this always. Okay, remember what I was saying about white women? Okay, High School Musical jam session. All right, I forgot to incorporate that into the loud white woman, into the loud white woman archetype, you know? Because that's in there. Okay, we get it. We get what they're about. All right, now let's see. Yep. All right. I'm gonna lower the volume. They're just singing a song. This has 114,000 likes. Okay, this is exactly what I mean. A tale of two cultures. What does that mean? It's like yeah, culture, right? Yeah, culture. We've heard this one a million times before. I get the only like racially revealing thing that I see here is a reaffirmation of the fact that white people can't dance because they're not even trying to here, and they are. Is it racist? I don't even know. Is this like pro them? I can't even tell, man. I don't even know. The second one is them partying. It says right here, one is before practice, one is after a big game, y'all too much. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's culturally different, but is the comparison inherently racist? Well, that's what I mean. Can you tell? Because I feel like if a person who I knew was progressive posted this, I would go like, oh yeah, obviously. Like it's the joke is like white girls goofy, but they're like doing rap or whatever. But if like a right-wing account could post the exact same thing and to be like, oh, see, the white girls are poised and refined and they're listening to dirty rap music, like with no change in the context apart from, I have no idea. I don't even know. Love it. Thank you. Most responses do, but the ones who don't really do not pass the vibe. Maybe it is. I don't know. The replies don't seem to be full of white nationalists, though. So, man, I hate race as a concept. I hate it so much. So dumb. I will say though, assuming that this is being done in a non-racist context, like they literally mean culture here, and it's not a dog whistle. I will say this much: stuff like this is it's a reflexive defense in the context of a culture like this. Does that make sense? Like, one of the reasons black people play up the "yeah, we party" attitude is because they're doing so in response to a culture that's kind of demeaning them for that anyway, right? Like, there's an oppositional attitude here that gets fed into by the broader cultural narratives. It gets so complicated.
The moment she did this, and the moment she started pointing at her finger, talking about she about to get a ring, Twitter went, it started trending, and it went into a haywire. And I was just there to read the comments. I didn't want to see the comments. I'm like, really? I'm like, one of our own, Danny Cannell, that used to work here, told me it was classless.
Who?
Danny Cannell.
Oh, Danny Cannell.
Yeah, Skip, I'm like, hold on. So I went back and see, did he say anything about Caitlin Clark? Was it classless when she did it? Nothing. Everybody.
This is like a Virgin versus Chad discourse right here. Look at this. Over here, my man's muscles are filling up the suit. And over here, this guy's like limp. He's saggy. He's sleepy. Sleepy Joe over here. Sleepy Skip.
Nothing. Everybody loved it. Skip, a lot of these women in college basketball, a lot of the black athletes, they have their hair they have their lashes on, they have their nails done. A lot of them are tatted up. Some of them had dreads. So they don't project the role. And like she said, I don't fit your image. I don't fit the box that you want me to fit in.
Skip is possibly the most hated commentator in sports history. Really? Why?
And I'm cool with that. Angel Reese is what we call, she said unapologetically me, she meant unapologetically black.
Yes.
And she's talking about the little black girl. Don't you feel some type of way? You represent who you are. You stand proud, and you stand on what you believe in. Skip, this was a great game. And unfortunately, Skip, we're not really talking about the demolition job that they did.
It was a great game for LSU.
Yes. Skip, I mean, it got close there. Caitlin Clark came down and hit a couple of threes.
Did you ever really? I never really.
No. They had spent their wad Friday night beating South Carolina.
They did.
But Skip.
Skip said that a player wasn't a leader because he took some time away after his brother's suicide. Yeah, you got to stay on that grind set. Big dub for Skip. Yeah. Get into a car accident, your way to work, you limp your way back to work. Get back over there. Get in that seat. Grind set.
I mean, how do we... It's so obvious what this is.
You fucking die? Who cares? Show up to work.
This is not about anything else other than race. And I wish we didn't have to talk about it. I wish you and I could come out here and talk about what a great game. And Kim Mulkey, she did an unbelievable job.
She
in
does.
only her second year. She put LSU, they're a power now. People got to respect this basketball.
I feel, okay, I don't know anything about this guy, so I don't want to project too much, but I feel like right now he's just checking out because this is like a race talk. And he's like, I'm just going to keep my head down. Either because he doesn't care, or he doesn't want to be canceled or something. You know what I mean? Like, he does not want to talk about this. His body language is so much. It's like, yeah, okay, yep, yeah, racism, yep.
Women's college basketball program. She's one of the 2 or 3 greatest coaches, probably Gino, Coach Pat Summitt. Now you got to go Kim Mulkey as the 3rd greatest college female basketball coach in history.
I'll buy that.
But what we're talking about, because right down the middle, we see 2 different gestures. And one is a celebration, is celebrated as celebrated. The other is condemned. And why? Only because a black did the exact same gesture that a white female did 48 hours earlier. Skip, now don't forget now, Caitlin Clark been talking that ish. You remember her and
Jill Biden invited both teams to the White House because of this? Holy shit. That's so awkward. Can you imagine, like, being any player on either team and a black girl does like some BM or whatever, and then it turns into discourse, and then you both get invited to like the principal's office, Jill Biden, so she can offer you some cookies and have like a reconciliation moment in an environment where, as far as I can tell, the discourse is between commentators and not the players themselves. Like, I don't think any of the white girls have taken to Twitter and been like, I hate it when black women act confident around me. So this is very funny. I hope they've filmed the entire thing.
the Louisville player got into it. Ain't nobody know that's swag. Ooh, Caitlin Clark, she liked that. That's the Mamba mentality. Everybody was loving it.
You're down 15. Shut up.
Angel Reese can't say nothing.
Yeah.
Angel Reese do that. Why are you doing that? You're not in NBA this night. Yada, yada, yada. They have so much negativity to say. Is that our expression? We've always been very expressive. Jack Johnson started this. Jack Johnson started this in 1900, Skip, when he would beat their white heavyweight.
Angel Reese's reaction. Crying, laughing emoji, a joke. Oh, shit. She's turning down Jill Biden? Oh, fuck. Giga Chad. Wait, what exactly is she upset about? Oh, okay. It's okay because Jill Biden is inviting both teams. Oh, look, a participation trophy. Sorry. So Angel Reese is basically saying, like, get those white girls out of there. Or something. Damn, she's remarkably confident, huh? Like doing the BM to begin with, and then Jill Biden, like, hey, you both teams get to go to the White House. She's like, no, I get to go to the White House. She doesn't get to go to the White House. She lost. She's a loser. Fuck her. I get to go to the White House. Incredible. I respect it. I think that athletics is one of the very few environments where you get to be like an over-the-top, arrogant asshole, and it's completely fine. I think that, I mean, I don't pay much attention to sports, and I think I generally respect players who are kind of conciliatory and humble more, but I don't think there's anything wrong with being like a big over-the-top, arrogant dick, because sports plays so much into that. Yeah, like Richard Spencer with the Octoroon thing. I don't even know if you get in trouble for saying that, because it's like it's a million-year-old racial. It'd be like opening up at like Middle English dictionary and reading out slurs from like the Holy Roman Empire. It's like, does it mean anything anymore? Does this pertain? Is there relevancy? I don't know. You know? You Markip. Markip was an Austrian-Hungarian a weasel farmer, a racial slur of great great consequence. You know, a man was once executed for speaking this out loud in front of a minor duke. I don't know. It's fucking like biting your thumb. Did you see the vid of the Nazis getting schooled in front of the Supreme Court? Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, there's been a lot of
Come on. Trying to get my job taken away.
That's a white person fighting move right there. When you're both like wrestling for control and one of them is like yeah, that's a white move right there.
Go ahead. Knife! 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 Knife!
The thingy says that it was pepper spray, not a knife.
Knife! 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 Hands behind your back! Hands behind your back, brother! Hands behind your back! Get away from him!
I don't even know who here is the Nazi. I can't who. I'm assuming the guy in black because he's wearing a balaclava and not a mask. Like a Nazi wouldn't wear a mask. This needs Oblivion music? Yeah, kind of.
Get away from him!
Guy in mask, one of them literally has a Hitler shirt. Well, you don't know.
Not having a good day, man.
I am too.
Nice meme. Not having a good day, man. The fucking birds chirping. Yeah, it sounds like it was added in. It sounds like video game ambiance or whatever. Jesus. Where was that one clip of the one person getting attacked that everyone did the thing over? It was the one, there was like a trans lady who started shouting real loud. Don't show it. Don't what? Don't show it? Dana, how'd you find that so quickly? I don't know why the fuck I ever bother to look for anything on my own anymore. Yeah, we can, okay. Yeah, okay. This was pretty bad. I don't know. People are gonna like optics frog me on this one. It's basically just like a trans lady predominantly, but like a bunch of people collectively start shouting at this transphobe real loud, which is great. You know, shouting's cool. That's fun. Well, I'll just play the clip. Whatever. I'll play the clip. They should have punched him. No, they shouldn't have. Hold on. Okay? Well, yeah. Okay, hold on.
Why do you think they're getting that kind of representation? I mean,
Incoming 2 weeks of debate about the next 5 minutes. Oh, Econo boy, you know.
it's clearly was aggressive, violent assault.
You suck. You suck. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're not wanted. Fuck you. You're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking.
I don't know
idiot.
what to say.
Fuck
I guess
you.
these police officers
Fuck
are
you.
mostly.
You can tell she's a Voshite, by the way, because these are my debate tactics right here. This is my rhetoric.
Indoctrinated as well.
Everyone here,
They're afraid of the mob.
because you're a
I
fucking
think
idiot.
I think they're
Fuck you.
afraid that if they do
Fuck
anything
you.
to
Fuck
actually
you. Fuck
keep
you.
law and order,
Fuck you.
that
Fuck you.
they'll end
Fuck
up
you.
being
Fuck
on the
you.
end of this verbal
Fuck
abuse.
you. Fuck you.
So it's just cowardice from everybody all around.
Fuck you.
People probably want to know, how do you keep your composure?
Fuck you.
What's that?
How do you keep your composure?
Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Nothing.
Fuck you. 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 Hey, get your fucking ass up there.
Yoink. I think someone in the background is screaming, "Kill him."
Oh my God. My dog.
And then it's the yeah, it's pretty bad. Okay, so how do I Yeah, I'm trying to think of where to start from this. Okay. Okay, you guys, we talked about this before. You guys know about the Christian preachers that show up sometimes at public events in US universities and conference places and whatever, and they'll have a big yellow sign that'll say like you're all going to hell. And the main thing they're not Westboro. The main thing they want is to like bait you into attacking them. That's what they want more than anything else. They're not really going to convert you out there. This is basically just like publicity and fundraising for them. They want you to attack them. So when it comes to like, I've said this before, when conservatives are going to universities to preach their hatred, I think for the most part, it's actually a good idea to just ignore them. It sounds bad, but think about all of the discourse and all of the free right-wing publicity that's been gotten off of Berkeley, like freaking out anytime a conservative goes over there. The reason they're doing these university events is to bait your response. They're not dumb. This is a multi-billion-dollar conservative propaganda complex. The reason they're going to the universities is not because they especially care about the 300 students they'll get to pack into that one hall. The reason they care is because they know for a fact that students are going to do something that they can then make like 5 weeks of content off of, because they're canceled. Milo Yiannopoulos got his entire career off of doing this. Hi, Merrick. Thank you. Only on this side of my face. So for the most part, I don't actually think there's a good reason to give them that content. But like shouting at protests, like that's what protests are for, right? Like you can't, you know, I'm not saying you should never protest. And if you're going to protest, you're going to like shout chants, right? That's fine. I think if you're going to do that though, you should probably go with chants that don't make you look hysterical, which like you can see immediately this guy turns his camera, free content, directly towards the trans woman screaming fuck you at him right there, right up in the camera's face. Like that's exactly what he wants. It's because you're not making him uncomfortable. Like you're talking really loud and that interrupts the interview, but he's getting what he wants here. He's having a civil conversation with an interviewer. And then some screeching trans woman runs up and starts like barreling directly into his camera there. If you're going to shout and chant, I think it's probably good to do it in like a more positive context. Like you can shout like, you know, trans rights now, and not like directly into the camera of the phone, you know? Like if she was here and there were like 4 or 5 other people right around here and they were like trans right, da da da, you know, whatever. They can still drown the thing out, but not in a way that gives him any meaningful content. I think that's like an objectively better solution, you know, because you're not intimidating him. He's not intimidated here. He's not even inconvenienced because he's getting what he wants. Like if a guy like this came away from a protest like this with no footage of a trans woman screaming directly in his face, he would be disappointed. Like internally, he's like, there we go. I've been here for 25 minutes. Now finally I'm getting content for my channel. And, you know, and of course, this incident like went on to get tens of millions of views and be signal boosted by every conservative in the country. So like, I know what I'm saying here is objectively correct. Like this is one posting of this video, by the way. So like that's to begin with, you know? And then finally, like there's the assault at the end. Now, if you slow things down, it's clear that here, you can see his right hand right here, okay? His hand briefly presses against the lapel of her coat here, and she immediately goes for his throat. Now, I again, as an ardent advocate for self-defense, as I have clearly reinforced, like she is literally in his personal space. If I was at a crowded event and somebody was like leaning into me and I put my hand out and like this to try to like move past them and they immediately decked me in the face, I do not think you could fairly say that I initiated that conflict. Now, as for like the legal, you know, as for like the law-wise, like what starts in initiation, I'm not speaking legally here. What I'm talking here is like conventionally, colloquially, and socially, where he like it looks to me like he just wanted to like kind of push her aside to move forward. Which, if you're completely crowded in by people, you have to do that to move out. And then she immediately like fucking goes for him. Don't care what you say. He starts physical. That's an optic win for her. It's not. So that's fun bun. That's you in your own head. Nobody perceives this as him initiating the physical aggression. Literally nobody. Which is why the right wing has completely taken off with this. Nobody perceives that as him starting the aggression. She's loud and aggressive the entire time. He doesn't even make a facial expression except for, look at it, amused, because this is what he wanted. He gets his camera on the selfie stick and makes sure to get a shot of him going, ooh, look at these crazy transes, with her screaming directly behind him. And then he wants to leave, and he can't leave, it seems, because they're right there. So he tries to push past her, and she immediately like properly attacks him, or like tries to throw him on the ground. This was pretty poorly handled on like every fucking level by the lady and like broadly. And I just think it's good to point this out as an example of good behavior at protests when it comes to not doing exactly what the far right wants. And so just please try to avoid being like a useful tool to them, if at all possible. Why is the move here not just saying who gives a fuck like the left did with Richard Spencer getting punched? Because so there are so many different factors there. For one, the person who did the punch was anonymous. They dipped in, they dipped out. For two, at the time, Richard Spencer was still widely considered to be an out there figure, a far-right neo-Nazi, whereas this guy is literally just standing here. Critical difference that. We know he's transphobic, but both in his presentation and in his political alignment, you can't really make the argument that he's, like, martyred or whatever. For three, with the Richard Spencer punch, we didn't have a preceding minute of, like, gonzo porn for transphobes with, like, a trans woman screaming like this directly into his face. And for four, like, we're like the Richard Spencer punch happened like 5-6 years ago. It happened a long time ago. The discourse and the state of affairs was really different back then when it comes to the game that the right is playing and the degree to which they're weaponizing this stuff. It is true, though, that Richard Spencer punch wasn't, like, very good optically. It didn't benefit the left in any way. Richard Spencer getting decked didn't, like... That wasn't, like, a victory for the left. It's just in retrospect, people talk about it and, like, lefties laugh about it because he's a Nazi and he's out of favor and even the right wing won't touch him anymore. So he's just, like, a completely... It's just... It's like a more isolated incident. Obviously, that's not the case here because, like, Jesus, look at the... So it's better to just leave them on their own and embarrass themselves when they protest? Well, for the most part, yeah. And this is one of the reasons why, by the way, like I don't really like what Antifa's doing in this country. There's some stuff they do like community support and like fundraising and like food banks and blah blah blah. Okay, what I mean is like the black bloc stuff of the protest. We've talked about this before, and the problem is like the problem is that I don't think a lot of people on the left realize that the average person will consider a person who's decked out in full, like, black gear, top to bottom, to be kind of like a psychopath. The thing you really want if you want to win protests, optically speaking, is you want to have your side look like a bunch of normies. We're not competing for military strength here. Not only would the Antifa lose because it's just a bunch of college students, but B, like, the goal is to get as many people as possible to see our side as like the normal, mainstream, reasonable side, and for the right to look like the crazy ones. That's why it's usually an optical win for us when Nazis turn up in protest, like what happened in Sydney with that Posey Parker stunt, remember? When the Nazis turned up, it ended up being good for us, because having Nazis openly Sieg Heiling directly next to a prominent TERF did a lot to discredit her. That was a benefit for us, because neo-Nazis, I don't know if you know this, a lot of them are fucking crazy, and they don't realize that they come across as lunatics when they go up to a protest and start Sieg Heiling in front of a big flag. It's an optical loss that they do that. Likewise, whether you guys want to acknowledge it or not, I don't think the average American thinks of Antifa as being literally Nazis, but they are often in Black Bloc like a scary-looking group of people who, like, openly talk about wanting to punch people and yeah, like, blow up cop cars, meh. And that does a lot to, like, push normies away. It makes it seem as though the anti-transphobia wing of protesting is something that is exclusively the purview of Black Bloc and, like, trans people. And I think that's really dumb and that's really bad. You know, you want as many people on your side as possible. And basically everything Antifa has done since I've started my channel has ended up being an optical loss for the left. Like, literally everything. Like, seriously, think about their entire... Like, since I started my channel, every time Antifa Black Bloc does something at a protest, at Berkeley, it looks embarrassing, that video of them turning over the fucking trash can. During the Black Lives Matter protest, they were constantly scapegoated and blamed for everything wrong that happened, and they were used to manufacture a narrative that white progressive liberals were ruining the Black Lives Matter movement with the interest of, like, turning it into a radical communist Antifa blah 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 blah. Like, every student protest, every time they do anything, anytime fucking what's his name, Andy No shows up with a camera, like, it's so easy to make Antifa look like the bad guys because they're dressed like bad guys. Like, in the, like, language of cinema, they're dressed like bad guys. So I think it would be better if our protesting strategies were oriented more towards turning our side of the protest into, like, communal events that everyone can participate in. I think that would be like far more, far more effective. Oh, here's the person, by the way. The person who was in the video we just watched, the bald guy, 200K Twitter followers, traveling North America to expose gender ideology. He got exactly what he wanted. Literally, like, things could not have worked out better in his favor. The only inconvenience he suffered is somebody grabbed his collar and, like, threw him around in a circle for a second. Apart from that, this guy gets to spend the rest of his life coasting off of this. You guys realize that, right? His life. His entire life. Lives can coast off of events like this. To your point, check out this photo of the diner sit-in from the civil rights movement. This was not an optical win for all those angry white people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Man, fuck, MLK was so much smarter than, like, everyone. Unironically, it's not even a liberal take, because MLK was not properly a liberal, and he dissed liberals all the time. The problem is, like, a lot of people are under the delusional impression that they'll be able to win public support with a public show of strength against a far larger, like, hegemonic majority, which you won't. What you can do, however, is win sympathy. And sympathy on its own is not liberation, but it is a wedge that you can use to bring more people over. This image will never bring like a non-racist over to being racist. Nobody who isn't racist will look at this and go, wow, look at all of these furious white people dumping food and drink on these black people sitting at a bar for no reason, with no provocation whatsoever. I'm racist now. But plenty of people will look at this and go, okay, I gotta admit, this makes this crowd of angry white people look quite unsympathetic. It's like the Little Rock Nine as well, when you had all those photos of the furious white people screaming and spitting because there were, like, some little black girls going to school, you know? What about the Black Panthers and their presentation? Yeah, the thing is, the Black Panthers weren't really leading mainstream protests against the anti-civil rights groups. They were doing, like, relatively regimented and controlled, like, anti-police and occupancy measures. For the most part, they stuck to their game, which was looking cool as fuck, protesting outside courthouses with rifles, and following cops around. But they, like, the equivalent would be, like, imagine if MLK was leading a march and there were, like, 50,000 peaceful white and black people, and then Malcolm X showed up with, like, 100 or so of his guys, and they immediately, like, charged into a crowd of white people and started fist fighting them. Can you imagine how much damage that would have done to the civil rights movement? Like, immediately, that would have been that might have tanked the move. Like, shit like that could have set it back by years. That's not even, like, a bad optics thing. That could have given, at the time, the anti-civil rights crowd enough ammunition to legitimately, like, depopularize the civil rights act and movement. Like, literally could have set back everything. But the Black Panther Party, they did make mistakes, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, relatively regimented, well-organized. They knew what they had to do, and they were disciplined is the thing. The Black Panther Party was disciplined. They radiate discipline. I mean, you can see it in any image of them, any image of the Black Panther Party historically, and you know for a fact these guys would not just run into a crowd of racist white people and, like, start fighting with them. They wouldn't. Let me get a higher res photo. I feel like I can do better than that. There we go. They would not. This is not a crowd of people. This isn't just like a disorganized group of what. This is a controlled team. Bavash Antifa also isn't the face of the civil rights movement. I'm not gonna lie, man. Antifa kind of is the face of left-leaning protesting. It is. There's not really any other name or emblem or icon or organization to defer to. MLK specifically did protests. Those were MLK's protests. Now BLM, but BLM's done right now. It's not happening right now. I agree for a time, but even then Antifa ended up being kind of a bit of a detriment to them as well. I've never seen any empirical evidence that the idea of black bloc helps in what we're trying to do. I feel like it's an effort to recreate what the brown shirts did, but for the other side. But the brown shirts did stuff we can't do. And they did it in a very different environment. And they did it with way fewer rules restricting their behavior than Antifa gets to operate within. It's a totally different situation, you know? The black bloc thing is an aesthetic obsession. I will say, just to be clear, that this is not like a uniform disagreement, okay? I do think there were times where black bloc clashing with police during the beginning of the Black Lives Matter protests looked really good. There are a collection of videos and GIFs that we still have from 2020 after George Floyd was murdered, where there were like black bloc Antifa guys crashing up against cops that made us look really good. But that was in a very narrow window where the national discourse was about a police crackdown. It, like, the context of those engagements weren't like Antifa wandering looking for a fight. It was there were massive protests, and the police immediately rolled out there with militarized hardware to shut the protests down. And in that context, the black bloc narrative is one in which they are clearly the underdog. They are the anarchist fighting back against state tyranny. But that's not always the context that comes across. In fact, often I would say that it's not. Vosh, the people in Georgia have been mass charged with domestic terror. Yes, so the Stop Cop City is different, okay? Because that's not just a broad protest. That is a specific, that the people who are doing the Stop Cop City stuff are doing like targeted, like environmental slash, like that's not just them showing up at a park in, you know, like one day of a week or whatever. That's like a very directed thing. And in that context is going to necessarily be more militant because like they're literally being shot on sight by cops. That like that thing is very different, you know. But you might notice that you don't see much media coverage of those protests. And I think the reason for that is because it is known that the context in which those protests are taking place is one that narratively favors the protesters. It's not just a park clash between transphobes and trans people. You know, it's like a very targeted effort to, you know, undo an injustice in the context of one of their own having already been shot and killed. Many of them have been charged with domestic terrorism, but you're not going to be charged with domestic terrorism for showing up at a protest amidst 1,000 other normies and holding up a sign saying love is love, you know? Like, let's be realistic here. There's always a risk to protesting, but I feel like that risk is pretty low if you're operating as one out of a large mass of normies, you know? It makes the right look pretty bad to, like, dox and target normal people, you know? They don't look bad when they dox and target Antifa. That shit happens all the time. People act, by the way, like going in black bloc protects your identity. With the modern surveillance state, with people having phone cameras out, trust me, somebody's going to get video of you. They'll corroborate. They've done it before. They did it with that the bike lock kid at Berkeley. Doesn't protect you. Not always, at least. I think what really does protect you, both narratively, like optically, and literally, is just being one guy in a big crowd. I know it's not a heroic, you know, position. I know it doesn't fulfill power fantasies the way being part of Black Bloc does, but I think it's a lot more effective, you know? America doesn't need Antifa to be in support of trans rights. Everyone already knows Antifa is in support of trans rights. What America needs to know is that your average mom and pop, your average office worker, your average mom, your average dad, whatever, you know, they support trans rights. And this was done to great effect during the BLM protests as well. You guys remember the chain of moms in Portland? Back when there was a big kerfuffle around that one courthouse, remember? They got they got yeah, a bunch of moms to protest. And I remember that was actually a pretty big optical victory for the BLM people because they were just moms. They weren't like they weren't like a bunch of like angry college students. They had something to lose. They have children that they need to go back home to, and they still went out there and protested. And that means a lot. Hell, just having diversity of tactics in your presentation. Remember that one lady in Portland who just laid down naked on the ground and the cops went away? Because no cop wants to be like videotaped marching over to a naked, attractive woman with her legs open and cracking her over the head with a baton. They just left. They recognized that was a near impossible, like, optical scenario to deal with, and they just left. It just, you know, it's complicated. Stuff like this is complicated. But I just want to be clear that, like, none of what I'm saying right now is born of my ethics changing or whatever. I'm fully principled on this. The protests that lead to the best outcomes are the best protests. And my opinion on this with regards to Antifa is just because I don't think they lead to the best protests. I think overwhelmingly we need a different strategy here. That's just, it's the same goals that I want to achieve. I just don't think they're being achieved right now. For the most part, public engagements between left and right forces and protests tend to look pretty bad for us. Not because we've even done anything wrong, but because the right tends to be smarter about how to organize. Is Charlottesville an example of how leaving the right to their own devices can lead to better optical outcomes? I would say so, yeah. I feel like the narrative around Charlottesville would have gone a lot worse for us if Black Bloc had been there and all we had was like video of 40 dudes in all black like beefing with a bunch of Nazis, because then it would have just looked like, ah, well, the right and the left are fighting again. You know, it wouldn't have had the same. Yeah. They were there. Yeah, they were there. I mean, they're everywhere at these big protests. But is that what people remember from Charlottesville? Do people remember from Charlottesville the right and the left fighting with each other? No. They remember the murder of Heather. They remember the Nazi who drove through the crowd. They remember the complete shit show as a bunch of neo-Nazis live streamed their own like meltdowns, you know? They remember the confusion of the police failing to coordinate with the Charlottesville protest leaders, which led to them being moved over. It's true Antifa was there, but like at the same time, what we remember positively has nothing to do with Antifa. What we remember positively from Charlottesville is how they fell apart, as I think they often will, if not given the attention they're looking for. In my opinion. Not to mention, they were screaming Nazi chants. I mean, people had that on video. Looks quite bad for them, I think. It might well be, Merrick. SDL is a smart cookie. They also had literal Nazi flags. My personal opinion has been that if your opposition wheels out a swastika or starts Sieg Heiling, they have already done enough to discredit themselves to most Americans, even most Republicans, and direct engagement with them rarely will exacerbate their embarrassment, their discrediting, but can very often enhance yours. In a country that is still gripped by the lie of civility politics, the idea that, you know, oh, sure, maybe they flew a swastika, but you're the one who punched them. You know, that bullshit. In a country that believes that nonsense, you know, the direct engagement muddles things. It gives propagandists the opportunity to clip and to cut. Oh, who started this fight? Oh, free speech, blah, blah. But you just let a Nazi run a circle in a big park with a swastika. You take a video of that. Embarrassing. Deeply embarrassing. It is. Every time this happens, every time a swastika gets brought out. Charlottesville, the Sieg Heiling in Sydney just a couple of weeks ago. Hey, remember when they hung a swastika over the 405 in Los Angeles with a big banner saying Kanye was right after Kanye started going down his Blitler route? That got tens of millions of views and people shit-talking it. I mean, hell, look at Kanye. Kanye was doing the whole right-wing MAGA white supremacist line with Tucker and Donald Trump, and then he went full Blitler, and the right dropped him. Not because there aren't plenty of right-wingers who don't agree with him, but because it's optically difficult to handle collaborating with a guy who's openly saying that he loves Hitler. Do you think the optics around Kanye's situation would have improved for us if a guy wearing all black from head to toe had run up to him and punched him in public and a video caught that? Do you think if that had happened, things would have turned more favorably towards us? Because I don't think so. I think the best case scenario happened, which was that Kanye had his Blitler arc, melted down, went dark for a month, came back and said he liked 21 Jump Street. It's very embarrassing for the far right to be attached to that degree of instability, you know? It really does make their movement look fleeting and pathetic. But man, if somebody had run up and punched him, oh God, I can't imagine. In other words, let them burn themselves out. It's a contextual thing. I really, really wish there was a protest leader on the left. We don't really have them, you know? Why don't we have them? The Proud Boys go out, but the Proud Boys are often an optical loss for their side as well. Keep that in mind. Posey Parker is doing these like transphobia speeches. Like the march leaders, you know, people getting together. I'll be here, 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 and here. Let's go together. There are a lot of reasons why that's difficult to organize. The CIA, yeah. Excuse me. How do you feel about the John Brown Gun Club in Texas? I like the John Brown Gun Club. Normally when they go out there, they're doing so in a defensive context, and what's more, they exercise discipline. Open carrying in a tense social situation is really difficult to do, but I remember Antifa, guns, drag queen, guarding. Let's see if that brings it up. Yeah, in Texas. Yeah, I remember this. The critical thing that makes this possible is discipline. Now, if I remember correctly, okay, so these guys look intimidating as all heck, right? Clearly, that's the point. But something that differentiates them from the way Black Bloc usually engages in protests is discipline. They're standing right here, and that is where they stood. I saw the videos of people on the right trying to bait a fight with them. They didn't work. I bet you anything the John Brown Gun Club drilled into all these people's heads the absolute essential importance of keeping your cool. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. There's no doubt they didn't do that. I bet they really, really, really weeded out the unstable ones. Because if you're disciplined, then this can look pretty okay. Because what this comes across to me, it's not some petty right-left fighting. It's not some like crazy, it's not some crazy like, you know, battling in the streets or whatever. It comes across like, well, a little bit like what the Black Panther Party did. Not as cool. Not as cool as them. But it reminds me a little bit of what they tried to do. It reminds me a bit of their discipline. Now more based in the Black Panthers. You think they look cooler than where'd the other pick go? Whatever. Than them? Absolutely. Okay, well, agree to disagree. I still think they look cool. I'm not shit-talking them. So you're saying just don't wear black? I'm saying for the most part, if you are protesting, I think it's best to come across as a large block of people who are normies and who are out there because they support a commonly held position, not as a bunch of militant radicals. But there are some very specific situations where more militant engagement and protesting can be good, but you need discipline. You need discipline so much you cannot forego the discipline, which is why stuff like this will always be bad for us, because militancy and aggression, when not tempered by discipline, will always be fodder for the right. Would you agree discipline is the most important thing for any protest group? Numbers is the most important thing, but discipline after that, I think. One other thing is lefties need to drop the hammer and sickle shit. Makes them look like retarded LARPers. Yes, I agree. There shouldn't be any... If you are at a protest, you should be there for the specific subject of that protest. You only denigrate the protest by bringing in other ideological shit. First of all, nobody should be flying the hammer and sickle anyway, because the Soviet Union is cringe and state capitalist, and revisionist and cringe. But additionally, like people were doing that at the BLM protests, why would you tear down the purity of the BLM protest, which is about racial injustice, by making it your broad, your broad left-wing thing? Do you think the average black American supports the Soviet Union? Why introduce the dissolution? Why conflate? Why complicate? I would only go to a protest to pick up girls. Based. Good attitude. What about the flying red and black bisected ANCOM flag? Can I bring mine to a protest? No, stop. Nobody cares. First of all, only 3% of Americans know what a red and black ANCOM flag are. The rest of them recognize it as a generic, radical, you don't spend enough time outside flag. Also, unless you're specifically going to a protest that is about the institution of anarcho-communism, and I doubt you are, it's an off-topic flag, and I don't think you should be bringing it. We all have a responsibility that we need to fulfill when we're attending a protest. We need to understand that we're acting as representatives to an extent for the ideology, for the effort, for the will of that protest. You know, it's not as though the media and interlocutors and counter protesters will only engage with the leader of your protest. They'll engage with anyone they can get, and while you're there, you will be taken as a representative of the intentions of that group. If you go to a protest, here's listen, okay? Let's close this segment because it's getting rambly, okay? Here's Vosh's hot tips to go to a protest from a person who used to go to them and doesn't anymore because I don't leave my house, okay? First of all, bring supplies. Have a backpack. Water. Water's important, okay? If you think there's going to be anything spicy happening, you can bring some other stuff, but for the most part, just bring water. It's very important, okay? Bring some water. It's good for you, all right? I mean, I don't know how spicy of a protest we're talking. I'm thinking more like this, like you guys are just showing up at a park. I'm not really thinking like Hong Kong protests or like Black Lives Matter protests. Listen, two specific situations. Right now we're talking about meeting up at a park. No threat protest, okay? You're going there. All right, now you're there. What do you do, okay? Do not talk to people. Someone shows up with a camera, someone shows up with a phone, someone shows up with a microphone. Do not talk to them. They are almost certainly right-wing. They are there to get content off of you. Just literally, you can just be like, oh, I don't want to talk. Have a good day. You can just say that. Even if they're clearly right-wing, you can just say, have a good day. You're not benefiting them. It's not like they are more likely to have a good day because you said that. What you are guaranteeing is that you're not going to end up as a, wow, they're too triggered and afraid to talk compilation because you just came across as breezy and unbothered. Breezy and unbothered. Be breezy and unbothered. Ideally, if you're chanting at a protest, you want something with broad appeal. Obviously, you want it to be nice and catchy, but you as an individual, you're not going to control what gets chanted, so, whatever. But I think the positive stuff tends to land better. I think it goes in a better direction. Defensive and positive tends to be better than aggressive and negative, in my experience and what I've seen and what gets popularized. Just don't look personally angry, okay? Because they love that stuff, Look, you want to be disciplined. You want to be principled. Aggressive positive. You can be aggressively positive, You want to look principled, and you want to look like you're kind of having a good time out there. Because, and I know it sounds really dumb because we're talking about issues that are literally life and death for a lot of people, But looking like you're having a good time out there is like the bane of the far right, because there's nothing they want more than to make left protesting to look like this miserable group of political radicals who are out there because they're just completely disconnected from reality and they're just grimly, following through on this ideology that's destroying them internally. being breezy and being happy makes you look, I think, in the long run, really good. What's that? Do you remember one of the Red Scare girls got famous early on because she was wearing like a sailor outfit at a protest, and a Fox News lady asked her why she supported Bernie Sanders, and she responded with like, "Oh yeah, well, I want free healthcare," or something like that. Was that Dasha? I don't know. They're bitches now, but like whichever one that was. One of the reasons that went really well, and one of the reasons that ended up like taking off her career, is because people love it when protesters look like that. In fact, let me bring that up right now. Oh, it was InfoWars, not Fox. Let me bring that up right now. Hold on. InfoWars. It's Dasha, right? Dasha, Bernie Sanders. This is it. Dopey InfoWars reporter gets owned by super chill socialist. Hey, look at that. Interestingly, it looks like the majority report with Sam Cedar is positively framing her as super chill. She's not a socialist, of course, but let's skip over where her career would take off. Also, hi, Sam. Here.
Presence to expressing the outrage that this was censored.
Sam.
But, here it is.
Hi, are you a fan of Bernie Sanders?
Yeah, I am.
What do you like about him?
That he's a socialist.
Why is socialism good?
Are you like, I don't really want to do this. What is this for?
We're asking people why they like Bernie Sanders.
For InfoWars?
Yes, we are InfoWars.
I think he has a lot of integrity. I like his value system. I like what he stands for.
Exactly.
We don't need to watch the full thing. Do you know why these clips took off so much and why she took off so much? So clearly she's blazed out of her mind. You know, clearly she's blazed. The reason why, watch it all. You can jerk off in your own time, buddy, okay? The reason why, part of the reason why is because she's attractive, and that's obviously a bias, you know. But additionally, a large part of the reason why this took off really positively for her is because her positivity and her nonchalant attitude and her just relaxed vibe make it really, really difficult to dislike her. In the context of this video, you have to try with like superhuman effort to dislike her. It's really difficult to, even if you're on the right. And at the end of the day, that's what protests are about. I know it sounds liberal, but it's true. This is a proper critical analysis of what protests are meant to do. They're meant to win support. That's an optics game, baby. And as long as we're playing the optics game, what do you want to do? Be likable. Seriously. If you're likable, the right won't want to take videos of you because it'll make them look bad. They don't want to show people having fun on the left side. They don't want to show people being pleasant, likable. I'll be fair here to you know, kind of the bias, attractive. You know, imagine like, what do you think the right's going to get out of that? Like they have, you know, oh, here's a protest. Here's a bunch of pro-trans people with signs. And it's just a bunch of like happy, pleasant looking, attractive people. I know we can't all look like runway models or whatever, but I hope you understand what I'm getting at. Antifa Black Bloc is often the antithesis of this, where their goal is to be unappealing and unpleasant in a way that's meant to be confrontational, but often only ends up serving the far right's optical interests. Is this why you stay home? Yes, this is why I stay home, because I get grumpy if I'm outside and it's too warm and my feet hurt. Unironically, this is why Nick Fuentes one time told fat groypers to stay away from him. That's true. Nick Fuentes understands this. When he went to a couple of political conferences, he said, like, hey, if you're a fan of mine and you're fat or ugly, stay away. Sounds harsh, but that's basically just a meaner version of something that like a public manager or coordinator would have done. Like think about it for a second. Like that is essentially, if you had a person whose job it was to coordinate the optics and like journalistic presentation of a protest that you were doing, they would be responsible for making sure the hot people were next to the ones that would be getting photographed. So we're demonstrating an awareness, I think, of, again, I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying that it's important we understand how this works. All right. Does that mean a fat, ugly lesbo like me should probably stay away from protests, lol? No. It means that when you're there, you should look like you're having a good time. Yeah, look like the feels good man emote. Ah, man. Okay. Oh, man. I was going to play Resident Evil 4, but I feel like it's probably for the best that we roll through these segments. Maybe I should just do one more segment. Do both. Well, I didn't want to stream much. Both? Vosh IMO being a non-passing trans woman at a protest is bad optics as well. I know people get mad at me for this, but it's true. It's a bad look. Okay. If people get angry at you for saying that, it's because their feelings are hurt, not because they disagree with what you're saying. Obviously, when it comes to public presentation and optics, people are incredibly cruel and harsh in their innate biases towards beauty and towards thinness, towards apparent health, towards tall people. Yes, obviously for trans women, trans men, well, less so for trans men because of complicated social stuff, but broadly, yes, with trans women, obviously, the more you pass, the less of an optical dent that you are making in normies' immediate assessments of you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go and protest, though. I'm not saying that if you're not like a runway model, you shouldn't protest. I'm just saying that it's important to understand that optics, like, kind of is the name of the game when we're doing this sort of thing. You know what I mean? Guys, it's like this for everyone, okay? I'm literally like a fat bearded guy with glasses. I had a ponytail up until recently. Do you think I would have been winning any favors standing directly next to Bernie Sanders at some protest in favor of, I don't know, better healthcare? No. We're just talking about getting out there and protesting, which I strongly encourage you guys to do, okay? I'm not saying that you can only go out there if you look like, I don't know, Chris Pratt or whatever, Brad Pitt, I don't know, whoever the hotties are now. Matthew McConaughey? No, that's like, oh God, I'm old. No thanks, God. What is this? I think the Patriot Front optics are pretty decent, but you're always hypercritical of your political enemies. I feel like I'm more hypercritical of my political allies, but I can't grade the optics on this clip because this is like an edited clip. Like it could be saying anything. Tom Hiddleston? He's a troll, ignore him. Okay. How's your game going? Haven't had the chance to work on it while I was recovering, but I'll get back on it soon. It's only been like a 5-day break, you know. The judge covering Trump's case said cameras won't be allowed for his hearing. What? No cameras in his fucking hearing? Dude, Donald Trump under oath? You're seriously gonna take that from us? Man, fuck that judge. That's fucking bullshit. Content cucked. Jesus fuck, man. We used to be a real country. The people need to fucking know. Excuse me. They can take pictures, they just can't televise. Yeah, but I want the televising. I hope we at least get transcripts released. Stupid. Trump probably wants it to be televised too. Everyone does. All right, hold on. Some people emailed me. Wait, this is the wrong video. There we go. Keep this segment. No edits. Apparently on the Leftovers podcast, they had the man, the myth, the legend, Richard Wolff on. And people said that his takes were really bad. That's what I've heard. You know, many people have said this.
It used to be a phrase: the government should not choose winners and losers in the market. That was a kind of phrase that we were told. Well, what you're seeing at every turn.
Is there a particular timestamp? Because he's on here for like a solid 45 minutes.
is exactly the opposite. The government is choosing winners and losers, helping these industries, not those industries, saving this one, not the other one, forbidding this, allowing that. It's never stopping, and it's not a sign of confidence in your system. It's a sign of fear and retreat and
Did he always talk like this? I feel like he's gotten more meandering. I don't know.
Danger and isolation. And now let me put on my economics hat. You know, it's not that list that you mentioned a minute ago, Iran.
Yeah, I don't think this is the Ukraine portion. We'll find the Ukraine portion.
Russia, China. You better get out your pencil. Russia, which is a weak economic system, right? At a certain point, back in the 18th century, the people here in the United States decided that they were sick and tired of being a colony of Great Britain, an empire, especially after World War II. It was a great ride up for the U.S. Between the United States and China goes up every single year. There's a peculiar disconnect between, if you pardon me, the roaring bullshit from the politicians and the underlying reality that we need them. We need them to produce consumer goods. If the American people had not been able to buy cheap Chinese...
Was there any interplay between the hosts and Richard Wolff, or does he just yell the entire time? Wolf always monologue. Yeah, that's true. Just like, yeah. Well, I don't really have a timestamp to go to here. The growing defense budget.
Consumer.
And in the United States of America on one side of the table would be the quickest and most swift way to try to stop this conflict and further bloodshed from...
Oh, well, that sounds Ukraine-oriented.
Negotiation talks that were happening, organized by...
And to make a fortune for themselves along the way. Those are the realities. The rest is make-believe. Nobody wants this war in Ukraine. Above all, the people of Ukraine.
Except for, like, Russia. Here, I'll go back a little bit.
Price if those things had been produced anywhere else. Capitalists in America are grateful, if they're honest, for the cheap Chinese goods that have made it possible for profits to go up without rising wages, because you could go to your neighborhood TJ Maxx store and buy inexpensive Chinese clothing, or to the other stores. You know, there is no Amazon, there is no Walmart without Chinese goods. If you plot the growth of Walmart and the growth of China, you discover something. It's the same business.
Is this really a hot take? That like internal American economic production and distribution relies on cheap Chinese labor and manufacturing? I guess I'm just surprised that he's talking about this, because this, I don't know if this is contentious anywhere, you know? Like, it's not even, I don't even know if it's something the right would even disagree with. Like, obviously, one of the big things that Trump talked about was, like, jobs leaving to China. So, like, yeah, of course it would be. Like, I think everyone agrees here.
The China...
It's because of the way he talks. It doesn't sound like he's laying down some universally agreed upon stuff to pave the way for a more radical take. It sounds like he's speaking from the mount, you know, like he's screaming sermons. It's because of the way he talks.
Produce us on everything, but they could never have gotten into the American market unless Walmart, Target, and all the others acted eagerly to be the distributor of those Chinese goods and to make a fortune for themselves along the way. Those are the realities. The rest
Trying to cut in.
is make-believe. Nobody wants this war in Ukraine. Above all, the people of Ukraine, who are suffering beyond all words.
There wasn't even like a lead into that. He just says it. Okay.
Destruction of their society. Who's benefiting out of this? I mean,
American weapons manufacturers.
Excuse me?
American weapons manufacturers are.
American weapon manufacturers make plenty of money on their off days anyway. I don't like nobody wants this war in Ukraine. Well, Putin does. That's why he did it and is still doing it. I always dislike the implication here. The idea that like because the implication is like that the American military industrial complex is responsible for prolonging the Ukraine war. And I've always felt like that's like that's the implicit statement that they're too cowardly to openly defend, because there are only two directions you can take that. One would be like, I want America to give Ukraine more weapons. They're prolonging the war by not giving them more weapons, and which like that's clearly not Hassan's position, because Hassan doesn't want them to give Ukraine more weapons. Likewise, that's up to the government, not to the not up to our weapons corporations. And additionally, like the other direction you can take that is that America's prolonging the war by standing in the way of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. But how are we? The only people who can negotiate a peace talk are Zelensky and Putin. That's it. Those are the only two people capable of doing that. And Zelensky has made it very clear he doesn't want to cede the easternmost fifth of his country to Russia. So until Russia retreats, that's not happening. So I'm probably getting ahead of the topic here.
Yep. Yep.
It seems like those with the least to lose and the most to gain out of this are the ones that are pushing for it and pushing for the continuation of it. Whether it be Boris Johnson back when he was the prime minister going into Ukraine during the first round of peace negotiations or a possible ceasefire and peace negotiation talks that were happening, organized by Turkey, or whether it be Ned Price and numerous other American State Department officials continuously talking about how...
See, this is conspiracy nonsense. Yeah, obviously, Ukraine is allied with the West. Obviously, our political leaders would talk about and have some investment in Ukraine. But that's not prolonging the suffering. If it wasn't for our investment, Russia would have just taken Ukraine, or at the very least gotten to Kiev and held Kiev. Like, it's the cowardice in the implication that bothers me. If you really think the least bloody option here would have just been to cede the entire country to Russia and let Russia conquer all of it, then just say that. I wish they would just up front be like, okay, I think the thing that we should have let happen was we not support our ally, we not give them anything, and we just let Russia take all of it. And that would be the best. And if at least once you've made that position, we can argue it, like we can back and forth on that. But not this like conspiracy bullshit of like, oh yeah, leaders in the West are prolonging the war somehow through some nebulous means.
They are not interested in peace at all. Obviously, there's an argument here about what Ukrainians want, and some will say that, well, the overwhelming majority of Ukrainians want to keep fighting this fight, but ultimately, we are not giving Ukrainians everything they want. It's not like we're, implementing Article 5. We're not.
Well, yeah. We do that. Yeah, they're not in NATO. They're not in NATO. We can't. Boris Johnson explicitly told Zelensky not to agree to a peace deal. Not really a conspiracy. No, that is still a conspiracy. He's allowed to have input. So a leader goes over and tells Zelensky, hey, man, don't just like cede a third of your territory to Russia. You can fight. Yeah, that's not them conspiring to prolong the war. That's them being supportive of their ally. Like, see, so many terms have been bastardized in the Ukraine conflict. For example, funding a country you're allied with is now referred to as a proxy war. Like, I always thought that a proxy war was like a grand battle between two countries being fought through direct support to like a conflict in a second country. But in this case, Russia is directly invading Ukraine, did so without any prompting from the United States, and our support to Ukraine isn't any categorically different from the kind of support we've provided our allies in times of war before. So we're not there on the ground. We're not implicated if Ukraine wins or loses. It's just supporting an ally.
We're not even giving Ukrainians F-16s. We're not training them on that. We might down the line, I think, but so far these are demands that they've made.
So we should.
We haven't conceded to. So I think that pushing for peace negotiations on that front, with China and Russia at the other side of the table, with Ukraine and the United States of America on one side of the table, would be.
We're not in the conflict. We're not at war. We don't have. We're not at war. We're not there. There's nothing to negotiate. Okay, it's Putin and Zelensky, and the only question is how much, where will the border be when the conflict stops? Right now, Zelensky thinks that he can take back more Ukrainian territory, and I agree with that assessment. It seems like the past year of conflict has leaned in that direction. So he doesn't want peace. He wants to reconquer his territory. Pretty reasonable, for a country that's just been invaded, I think. And Putin won't just leave. He could just leave. That's a thing he gets to do. Zelensky can't just leave. If he just leaves, he loses Ukraine.
The quickest and most swift way to try to stop this conflict and further bloodshed from continuing.
Well, I mean, let me just expand one dimension of that point. We now have a defense budget, depending a little bit on how you look at it, in the neighborhood of $850 billion to $1 trillion. If you take a look, it's more money than the next 8 or 9 countries in the world combined spend on their military. We have just authorized an additional $100+ billion just for the war in Ukraine. Even if you believe.
Based. In the negotiations, there are two sides. Russia is demanding to hold the territory they took, including Crimea, and that Ukraine demilitarizes and they stay neutral. Yeah, as I understand it, right now, it's actually Russia that's offering a completely unreasonable term for ending the conflict. Where Putin is basically saying, yeah, we'll stop the fighting as long as we win. Yeah, okay, as we'll have a ceasefire as long as you lose. Whereas on the other side, all Russia has to do in order to get the terms of the cessation of conflict that Zelensky wants is to just move their troops back. Why are we pretending that there's some kind of there's some kind of parallel or some kind of even play here? It's two sides who, both have valid concerns, and we're going to have to give or take to get a solution. No! One of them's the invader. There's not two equal sides here at all. One side, Zelensky's, has a set of perfectly reasonable demands. Get the fuck out of our country. And Russia's just okay, well, we'll stop killing your people if you just surrender to us anyway. Okay? I really wish people like Hassan would just acknowledge this and stop pretending that that this is just two rowdy children who are battling back and forth and just need a stern hand to go, okay, now settle down. You've both done some good and some bad.
That one motivation for the Ukraine war is the money being made by the defense industry. We already are doing more than anyone in their right mind could ask to provide them with a profitable business. Over $1 trillion. I don't even think they're that greedy. They're getting a big bundle with no opposition.
Guys, I've got a conspiracy for you. Did you guys know that under capitalism, when you do things, the corporations that help you do those things make money? That's a big conspiracy. Don't spread it or the CIA will kill me. Every time, hey, did you know the weapons industry is making money from us selling weapons? Yes, I knew that. Thank you. Yeah, you can make the exact same argument about us supporting our allies during World War II, like us supporting the British when they were being bombed by the Luftwaffe. We gave many of our allies weapons before we were even directly involved in the war. We were neutral.
No,
well, we weren't neutral, but we were not participants. Yeah.
Nobody opposes the defense budget. I mean, a handful of people, but it's basically trivial. The two parties that run our politics are both eager to outdo one another in supporting the defense budget. They're in very good shape. They don't need another $100 billion war on top of the.
Guys, let's let a fascist dictatorship invade a country and conquer it to own the military defense corporations. Guys, let's let the fascists win and snuff out a country and conquer a bunch of territory, because the alternative would be a bunch of already very wealthy corporations making more money, something that would have happened anyway.
Gift that this one represents. So for me, I don't think it's even them. I wouldn't mind criticizing them if I thought it, but I don't see. They've made a ton of money by all the stuff we've shipped to Ukraine, and all of that will have to be replaced.
Also, the Russian government's intent is explicitly genocidal. Yes, it is. Keep in mind, blood and soil was literally in Putin's like initial premise for the invasion of Ukraine, justification-wise, and Russian state media constantly is having people on who are doing pure genocide shit, saying that Ukraine isn't a real country and Ukrainians aren't real people, saying that it is the place of Ukraine to be under the dominion of Russians, because like historically that's been a thing that they've done to Ukrainian people quite a few times. It's not, yeah, it's like full fascist Nazi shit when it comes to the invasion here, which obviously, because there was no reason to invade to begin with. The idea that a full Russian conquest of Ukraine would be a peaceful resolution is the most like insane Nazi brain shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, yeah, dude, these guys were war criming and invading and Lebensrauming their way all the way across the entirety of Ukraine. But what they really want at the end of all of it is peace. That's why they're doing it. That's why they're invading Ukraine. For peace. That's what we can look forward to after they're done.
They will get the money and the profit out of that. The budget is huge, and it got a tremendous boost. Look, I'm an economist, and two things have happened in the last year that strike me as downright funny. We are in a supposed war against the inflation in our country. And to that end, we have a Federal Reserve, our central bank, that has raised interest rates. And that's supposed to slow down the spending by individuals and businesses because they can't, it's too expensive to borrow money at high interest rates, et cetera, et cetera. What's the worst thing you can do to an inflation? Pour money onto it. It's like squeezing kerosene on a campfire. It flares up. It's a stupid thing to do. What have we just done? We have just spent an extra $100 billion on a war in Ukraine. Most of that money goes right back into the American economy because it pays.
What? Okay, I'm not a big econ guy, but I'm pretty sure he's just objectively wrong here. The discretionary budget of the United States government is not us printing money, it's us spending money. Like, we drive like if we spend more money than we make in a given tax year, then yeah, we drive up the debt, the deficit increases. But the deficit has been increasing and the debt has been increasing for ages. And the 30-year fixed mortgage rate average in the US has only gone down basically since like the mid 1980s. The only time it's gone up recently is in like starting in 2022 for a variety of reasons, probably tying largely to the COVID pandemic and supply line shortages, but it's already started to go back down. So if the argument is that like debt or deficit increasing is what leads the inflation rate to go up, then why on earth would this be going down over the past 40 years? Guys, am I wrong, or is he just objectively incorrect here? The idea that extra defense spending is like what contributes to higher inflation rates. Like I think that at the most that is very reductive, but it might just be outright wrong, isn't it? You're right, his brain is soup. Okay, yeah, like... Because when our government has a budget and they spend money, if they don't make enough money in taxes to pay the entirety of that budget, we have to borrow to spend, which we do almost every year. I think the last time we had a a net surplus was under the Clinton years for like 2 years or something. So we're increasing the debt with every single year. And most of our borrowing is like internal American borrowing. Like we borrow from ourselves, we borrow, like it's very, very complicated. But the net result of this is that I don't think you can fairly argue there is a direct relationship between an increase in the debt or deficit and our average inflation rates. Oh, sorry. I was looking at interest rates over year. Hold on. I'm so stupid. I could end up being the biggest cuck in the world. Inflation rates over year chart. It's the same thing. I'm still right. I just used the wrong term, but I'm still correct. Look. Changes in price from the year before. So it's like a year-by-year comparison, like with a normalized inflation. You might notice inflation goes up basically every year. Welcome to America. But like the inflation rate, with exception of like the big spike we had recently, has held steady right around like 3%-ish from year to year, in spite of the fact that our deficit keeps going up and up and up. Here, yeah, deficit rates over year. .5% per year is optimal. 3% is marginally high. Well, we don't always get what we want. Come on, where's the deficit by year? Here, yeah. U.S. budget deficit percent of GDP from 1954 to 2018. Total deficit, primary deficit. Yeah. See, it went down right here to the negatives under the Clinton year. Yeah, he's completely full of shit. Okay, I'm sorry. I spent too long on this. Econ isn't my strong suit, but like what he's saying right now, the idea that raising... Wait, hold on. Wolf is correct here. The idea of increasing interest rate to decrease the amount of money in the system people can use, but excess military spending goes back into the economy. It has nothing to do with deficit. It has to do with how much money people have and what they can spend. Now, how much is that 100 billion actually making into the hands of citizens is arguable, but it's not illogical to make that. No, he's making the argument that like having a higher U.S. budget would mean higher inflation, because the higher budget means that we would have to borrow more. The deficit would raise. I just don't think this tracks. What he's saying is dumb, but spending does raise inflation, because in times of inflation, you want to constrict the amount of money flowing through the economy. If the supply of money decreases, there's less devaluing of the currency. It's dumb for other reasons. Yeah, but then why doesn't that track with all the other times? Like our deficit increases, our debt increases, but it doesn't seem to track onto what our inflation looks like. Unless he's arguing there's something specific about spending in the defense industry that would lead to an inflationary increase that isn't... Okay, we're moving on. We're moving on. Because it's not the only factor. I'm not inclined to be charitable to Professor Wolf here.
For the military one way or another, and Mr. Zelensky is not stupid. He understands you better spend that money back in the United States and not in some other country, because that will be the fastest way to cut that game over, number one. The second thing we did when our banks started to collapse...
What? Zelensky has to spend the money from the weapons we've given him in America, or we'll stop... I think right now he's fighting a war. I think that's his primary concern. He's calling Ukrainians welfare queens now. He kind of is.
A couple of weeks ago was to say that the Federal Reserve is going to come in and give any bank in trouble losing deposits, they can go to the Federal Reserve and borrow brand new money to replace the deposits. Well, let me explain to you. If the deposits go from a troubled bank to an untroubled bank, that's still money circulating in our economy. If the Federal Reserve backstops banks by pumping more money in, then you've got a bank crisis leading to more money and a war leading to more money. You're not slowing down the inflation that way. You're making it worse. What's my point? It's obvious. No one discusses it in this country. No one is saying, wait a minute, we got to think about the inflationary. If we propose to help the food stamp recipients for another 6 months, the issue of inflation would be raised.
Yeah, that's a moral hazard. It's only a moral hazard as it pertains to the working poor when you're helping the working poor. It's never a moral hazard when you're helping bankers get golden parachutes in the aftermath of the 2008 financial collapse. So what you're basically...
Okay, I agree with that. I don't agree that they're equivalent, but I do agree that obviously our government is way more willing to open up the purse strings when it comes to stuff regarding national security and defense than they are for other stuff. I agree with that.
Basically, just to make it a little bit easier to understand for our audience here, am I correct in stating that we have two methods of dealing with the inflation? We have monetary policy and fiscal policy.
Right.
Fiscal policy conducted by the legislative branch, which is usually just completely powerless, with the exception of the bipartisanship that they always find when it comes down to more money for the military. And then the monetary policy is also one that you can use, and it's pretty much the only one that you can use, unfortunately, because there is no such deflationary fiscal policy that the Republicans or the Democrats will ever allow. So they're utilizing that, the control over the inflation, by controlling the interest rates, with the express purpose of depressing wages, kicking people out of jobs, with the hopes that like inevitably people will be, this tight labor market will turn back around, and you will have a labor force that's willing and able to take less pay for the same work.
Yeah, and again,
Okay, it looks like they're talking about other stuff now. 57 is the most egregious part. It gets worse. Okay, 57.
That has a quick dismissal. If they even admit what I just explained to you, which is in every history book and can be verified in 10 minutes of Googling anything.
What?
There's no excuse for what's going on.
What?
Just like breezily dismissing the Ukraine war by saying the Russians and the Chinese don't offer to sit down and have a ceasefire. Both of those countries have done it. Maybe they're lying. Maybe they...
So first of all, we have literal historical evidence of Russia lying and failing to abide by ceasefires and the conditions of both Minsk agreements multiple times. The idea that anyone should presume Russia engages in good faith when they propose ceasefires is ludicrous. That's one. For two, the conditions under which Russia and China have proposed an end to the conflict are ones which essentially assure their victory anyway. It's like, oh God, man, hold on, I'm sorry. Russia conditions peace talks Ukraine. I don't know if I'll be able to find... Moscow requires Ukraine's neutrality, refusal to join NATO and EU. So that right there shows how bullshit it is that this has anything to do with Russia feeling threatened by being next to an EU country, as though they're not already with the Baltics. But also the EU, because they're terrified that Ukraine chooses to join an economic bloc that isn't theirs. They want Ukraine to join their faltering, natural gas and oil dependent, bullshit, fucking weak, crippled little economic Russian bloc, rather than joining the thriving, prosperous EU. So like right off the bat, like, yeah, so we need you. Not only will we dictate to you as part of these peace talks, not only will we dictate to you whether you get to join a military alliance to defend yourself against us, something which we've made very clear is necessary, but also we get to dictate to you what economic blocks you get to join. So any presumption of national sovereignty is completely out the window in Russia's propositions for peace talks here. Completely insane. The idea that Russia is approaching these in good faith when they are the invaders is absolutely ridiculous. It's disgusting to even suggest that. People will point to Russia being willing to sit down and talk and Ukraine not. And the reason for that is because Ukraine has made its conditions clear. Get the fuck out. Whereas Russia's like, hey, we just want to talk. We have a great peace solution for you, okay? All you have to do is give us everything east of Kyiv, and we'll get along. Hey, man, why aren't you willing to talk with us? Hey. Yeah, it's so obviously dishonest. But people like this keep fucking pushing it and keep defending it. It seems so much will depend on how quickly Kiev and the West realize the recipe for a peaceful future for Ukraine lies in a return to the origins of its statehood recorded in the 1990 Declaration on State Sovereignty. You're going to include Crimea in the initial, which provides for a neutral, non-block status of Ukraine with respect for the rights of the Russian population of the country and its national minorities. Galuzin also said Russia will, quote, not tolerate the existence of an openly anti-Russian state on its borders. So they're literally saying, like, okay, we'll control your military alliances, we'll control your economic bloc, and, oh, by the way, we get to decide whether or not you're anti-us, which, by the way, historically, Russia has defined Ukraine as being anti-Russian by not being a puppet state. Literally, they called Ukraine an anti-Russian state after Euromaidan, and Yanukovych fled after trying to turn the country into a dictatorship. So, like, their definition of anti-Russian state is one which is not just a puppet of theirs. Ridiculous. It frustrates me to no end that lefties treat Ukraine's demand as a non-starter, as though Ukraine has to surrender land at some point. Yeah, like, it's so fucking pathetic, man. Somebody linked this, like, a gigantic thread, 2,000 comments, holy shit, on the H3H3 production subreddit, the initial post of which got deleted, by the way, of people protesting against Hassan's awful takes in Ukraine. I don't think lefties like Hassan, though I'd consider this a far-right position on the Ukraine conflict, understand how fucking isolating and how weird and how strange it is for lefties to go on and on and on about, like, anti-fascism, equitable treatment for minorities, and then to just bald-facedly, line for line, repeat Russian propagandists in their defense of a fascist state taking over a liberal democracy with explicit blood and soil apologia in their justification for doing so. It's a little fucking jarring to have, we get it, you know, America bad, man, military-industrial complex bad, but it's not just that, because if it was just a principled opposition to the military-industrial complex, you wouldn't be pretending that Russia is offering peace deals in good faith. It's not just America bad. If you want to think America bad, then Godspeed, go for it. It's a free country, unlike Russia, where you wouldn't be able to say Russia bad. You get arrested for that. But you know, that doesn't excuse you from being fucking wrong. You're, like, repeating Russian disinfo, pretending that shit, man. It's so bad. Why? Like, they can't even muster I hope Ukraine wins. Wouldn't that be a sensible thing for an America bad leftist to say? Hey, I really don't like the military support we're offering, and I don't like the escalation that our, like, arms are sort of, like, leading to, but, like, Russia's fascist, Ukraine isn't, I hope Ukraine kicks their asses, you know, I'm sorry we can't do more, but Godspeed. I still disagree with that position. I think we should support our allies, but, like, would that not be a reasonable take? But they can't take that take, because that's not pro-Russia enough, you know? Would it be enough if he said that? Because he has. He's said that. But then you go on and do shit like this. You can't do that and then engage in conspiracism about how it's the military-industrial complex that's prolonging the war, the West prolonging the war, how, like, Ukraine is our puppet, which is a far-right Russian talking point, pretending that, like, Russian peace deals are on the table, or there's some kind of, like, conciliatory, you know, urge we have to prompt in both sides to secure peace, without mentioning what that peace would look like, by the way, which would be a fascist country gaining territory. You know, every element of the way this is being framed is pro-Russian. You can say, oh, Russia's in the wrong, oh, I don't support their invasion, all you want, but as long as when you're actually talking, you know, about the way you want to move forward, you're framing it in that way, it's inexcusable.
Cop out once you started the process, but we're not in a very good position to call them bluffers if we haven't called the bluff. And if we're willing to sit down without conditions, why don't we say so? And I don't think you can use the argument.
Why would we sit down without conditions when Russia has already laid out the conditions for peace talks and they're unacceptable? First of all, we have conditions and they have conditions. What do you mean sit down without conditions? What would the point of that be? They would immediately just say their conditions. Russia's conditions currently is unacceptable.
argument about what the Ukrainians want, because here I'm not interested in criticizing Mr. Zelensky, but you should know, if you don't, that he has shut down opposition newspapers, opposition media, opposition politicians. He's fighting a war. Maybe you have to do that in war.
A huge portion of the Zelensky shutting down opposition that people on the left who mysteriously repeat Russian talking points have been inclined on has been him shutting down media outlets and political parties that are explicitly pro-Russia. I remember there being a bunch of controversial news cycles there where we're like the parties that were being shut down were literally collaborators in the invasion, like explicitly like direct ties to Russia, publicly pro-Russia. Dog, look, you know, I'm all for free speech or whatever, but if you're being invaded, literally, like not a war's happening abroad, but invaded, and there are politically connected people and businesses in your country that are openly collaborating with the people who are shelling and killing your citizens, I think it's okay to arrest them or disband their groups. Personally, I think that's fine. You know, if we didn't want these free speech concessions to have to be made, perhaps we should have not invaded Ukraine. It is, after all, war is a situation that demands of people perhaps more than they might want to give when it comes to concessions. Oh, Kanye, for sure. I 100% believe that the Western left's obsession with gargling Russian state media cock on this issue and many others has been a product of like a multi-decade deliberate effort from the Kremlin to associate leftism with brain-dead, dumb fuck, anti-American. Anything that is anti-American is good, no matter what. It doesn't matter if they're worse in every way. Like, ideology. I really do believe that, yeah. I still have to listen to people talk about how China is socialist. Fucking kill me.
But there is no way to know what the mass of the Ukrainian people feel unless you want to take the fact that somewhere between 6 and 7 million of them have left the country, and it's not that big a country.
What? We have polls on what the Ukrainian people want, and they're leaving the country because it's being invaded. Did he just imply that they were leaving the country out of disgust for Zelensky's leadership? I think he did. He was like, we can't know what the Ukrainian people want, but so many of them are leaving. Why are they leaving, Wolf? Like, this is what I mean. This is not interpretable as just principled opposition to our military-industrial complex. This right here is just retarded pro-Russia shit. No thinking, no thoughts, no analysis. It's clown shit. Isn't he talking about Russia? No, he was talking about Ukraine. Listen.
Ukrainian media, opposition politicians. He's fighting a war. Maybe you have to do that in war, but there is no way to know what the mass of the Ukrainian people feel.
Yes, there is. We have polling data. Hold on. Zelensky approval Ukraine. In December 2022, the Kyiv Institute of Sociology found 84% of Ukrainians trust Zelensky, a threefold jump from the survey it fielded in December 2021. Only Ukraine's armed forces have a larger support base, with 96% of Ukrainians trusting them. Like, these are levels of support that America hasn't seen for anything since like 9/11 for Bush. Poll from August 11th, 2022, 91% of Ukrainians approve of Zelensky's job performance. May 9th, 94% of Ukraine, like literally everything we have. It's like people like fully support him as the dark green t-shirt wearing, sorry, long sleeve t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt wearing defender of Ukraine. It's like, so like everything we have. Every time, every poll, every group of people in Ukraine, there's no ambiguity to it. There's no doubt, zero doubt. And then big brain Wolf over here is going to be like, well, nobody knows if they support Zelensky, but like a lot of people are leaving Ukraine, probably because they don't like Zelensky.
unless you want to take the fact that somewhere between 6 and 7 million of them have left the country. And
Why, must be because they're just so dissatisfied. That's why all the people in Ukraine support Zelensky. Because all the people who don't support him are just so just hate him so much they left.
it's not that big a country, and that would not be
Not that big of a country. It's the what? It's the largest country in Europe that isn't Russia. And Russia is the biggest country on Earth. It's 40 million people. What do you mean? I mean, it's not big compared to us, but
a sign that you would want to make a big argument about, that this shows that they're in favor of fighting to the last Ukrainian, since they've made a choice not to be among those last Ukrainians that we're fighting for.
That's so fucking disgusting, dude. He's referring to refugees who are fleeing war in Ukraine as an argument against the country defending itself. A lot of those people who fled are women and children. Like, initially, service-age men weren't even allowed to leave the country. Like, millions and like, hugely so. A lot of those people who have left are women and children fleeing a war zone. And he's like, well, you know, these women and children who have fled a war, I mean, that's a pretty good argument. Maybe people are sick and tired of the war. I agree, they are. But not because of what Zelensky's doing. Can we just say Richard Wolff is fully discredited? This is, again, I've said this before. It's like with Zizek and the puberty blockers thing. Disagreeing with me is one thing. Being retarded while disagreeing with me is another thing entirely. And this is not just disagreeing with me. This is like no thought. Like, this is insane clown bullshit. Just zero thought, zero IQ, just gargling Kremlin cock, no thought whatsoever, which I have no respect for at all and is not forgivable.
So it does strike me as there's an awful lot of accumulated evidence that we're not dealing honestly and straightly with these major problems of our society.
He's literally making the conspiracy argument. He's literally saying, hey, ignore the 58,000 polls that show everyone in Ukraine supports Zelensky. Look at all these war orphans. This is evidence somehow. People fleeing the Russian invasion is somehow evidence that Zelensky needs to surrender to Russia. That's what he's saying. Look at all these people who have fled Russia. Zelensky needs to sit down and concede to Russia and concede territory in order to bring the conflict to an end.
And that's usually the sign of a society that is scared shitless, if you pardon my Spanish, and therefore is functioning with a level of anxiety that is scary to watch.
Yeah, they got invaded by, yeah. A country invaded them. There's a war.
Getting back to fiscal policy and monetary policy.
God, just let them roll with it.
You talked about some things that have demonstrably worked, like the Nixon price freeze. For contemporary America,
Man, just right with it. It feels like somebody going on Fox News to talk about, like, I don't know, the economy, and then having like a 5-minute rant on white nationalism that just goes completely unquestioned by the hosts. And then they move on from it and don't address it again. It's really, really bad. I like... Wonder if the mods deleted this post or if they deleted it themselves. They also failed to mention Ukraine surrendering their nukes peacefully in return for being left alone, only to have Crimea stolen a few years later. It's like everyone here, it's all like Ethan Klein fans who hate what Hassan is doing and saying about this. And I don't blame, because again, it's like psychotic. My husband is Ukrainian and I am strongly behind you. What peace talks? Ukraine wants to be left alone and be a sovereign nation. There's not ambiguity. If France invaded Spain, if Canada invaded the US, there is no question that the invaded country should have its borders and sovereignty restored. One, negotiations to stop the unprovoked bombing and killing of people. I'm shocked with Hassan's take in Ukraine. Well, it's the same take he's always had. So maybe this is just the first time it's come up on leftovers. This person's defending Hassan, but doing so with points that I've talked about. This is a very active subreddit. The Hassan fans in the sub were saying the sub was rated by your fans. There are some weird people in Hassan's fan group. It's like, because he has such a broad tent, so it's like the anti-me people are very conspiratorial. Maybe Ukraine shouldn't have worn such a short skirt. Yeah, true. You should debate the two on their podcast. Well, Ethan, first of all, Ethan wouldn't disagree with anything I have to say. For two, Hassan would never debate me on this. 0% chance that he ever would. There's no chance in the world that he would ever do that. Hassan just wants the war to end. Yeah, the problem is, like wars can end on good or bad terms. For instance, I would think that the history with Russia has made it pretty clear that a war ending with them doesn't actually mean that much. Like, Ukraine was given sovereignty, and then, when they failed to make Ukraine a puppet state through Yanukovych and making him a dictator, they just invaded the Donbass, and they took Crimea. Like, and then they violated the ceasefire with the Minsk Accords multiple times, and they lied constantly about their level of involvement in supporting and then like directly sending troops into the Donbass. And then they fucking invaded all of Ukraine. Like, the idea that anyone should ever trust Russia when it comes to just, oh yeah, well, we'll make any concession to end the conflict. It's just appeasement. It's just appeasement. It's no different. It's just appeasement. The only way this conflict can really properly end is by Russia being beaten back and crippled. And people don't like to hear that, you know? But that's because they're not realists. They don't understand how the world actually works. There is no reason to believe that a country that would invade with no provocation whatsoever like Russia would be cowed into not doing so again in the future out of what? Good vibes? Peace? All you're showing them by conceding territory from Ukraine's perspective is that they can get what they want by doing this. Oh, Russia just has to tank their economy and lose 150,000 soldiers and they get more territory. Oh, great. Maybe they can advance further towards Kiev next time, you know? They don't fucking care. The Kremlin doesn't fucking care about tanking its economy and killing its people. They're already dirt poor. They already kill their own people all the time. They don't give a shit. It's not a democracy. You get nothing from this. The only way to really stop conflict is to make it clear to the oligarchy, the real people in power in Russia, that, this is like a bear they can't afford to mess with. And you are doing the opposite of that by trying to push Zelensky into an early secession, into an early peace talk with a bunch of, requirements on Russia's part that are insane. Like, hey, we get to choose your military alliance. We get to choose your economic bloc. We get to decide whether or not we invade you in the future based on the nebulous claim of you being anti-Russian. And like, what do we get from this, you know? I'm sorry, the millions of war refugees get to come home to a country that's 20% smaller, you know? It's just insane. Ending a war on its own means nothing. What do you mean by crippling them? I mean this. They lose in Ukraine. They get pushed back. They lose their money. They lose their people. As long as it takes, as bloody as it is, because a permanent solution, one in which Russia really truly will not invade again, is only one that can come about if Putin is either disempowered or completely disinclined to any kind of invasion in the future. But Putin is like an insanely militant, ego-driven, nuclear-armed dictator. So I don't want to trust him after giving him like the, oh yeah, all you have to do is bully countries around that you get whatever you want lesson. There are no easy answers here. Yeah, like what happens? What happens if Ukraine is like, okay, fine, we'll do the peace talks, you get to keep your territory, and also we don't join NATO, and also we have to do your economic bloc, and blah, 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 blah. And then Russia just invades again. They'll just do the same thing. They literally said, we will not tolerate an anti-Russian country on our border. Oh, by the way, guys, I wonder whether or not they would find any anti-Russian sentiment in Ukraine after invading Ukraine and conquering a portion of its territory before getting a forced cessation of arms. I wonder if they'd be able to find any, I don't know, politicians or media that are anti-Russia in Ukraine after that. And then they just invade again. What's going to stop them from invading? A peace treaty? They'll just break it. Why wouldn't they? They do that shit all the time. They break treaties all the time. The only power treaties have are they're weighted against your trustworthiness as a country. And Russia has none. They've broken everything. Ukraine traded their nukes to Russia for the promise of national sovereignty, of not being fucked with. And then they got invaded. You're right, but are we just going to beat them back perpetually? It's Ukraine's decision. If Ukraine wants to keep fighting, then yeah, that's the right of Ukraine. If the people support Zelensky, the troops of Ukraine support Zelensky, and they're willing to keep fighting, then yeah, that is how that works. They are the ones who get to decide. But yes, they keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and eventually, Russia's back will break. And if Ukraine needs Western support to do that, because Ukraine is a small new country and Russia is a gigantic old one, well, technically the Russian Federation's pretty young, but you know what I mean. Then I say we should support them, because I have this old-fashioned lefty value of I think the fascists should lose. Zelensky is still defending Russia too in the same way. I know. Putin said, yeah, Tequila Sunset, good point, by the way. When the war began, Putin went on state Russian TV and he explicitly said that he felt he should reestablish the borders of the old Russian Empire. He said that. I don't know if you guys remember, but he said that. He just flat out said, yeah, we want to restore the borders of the old Russian Empire. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about the old Russian Empire and how far out that one went. But you're gonna have to creatively transpose some borders in your mind here. But if you can see Europe over here, you've got Spain and France, and you see where the Russian Empire borders came to, I think you can understand. See, where's Finland? There's a big chunk of land right around here. Used to be part of the empire. Putin explicitly said, can I find that? Putin, Russian Empire borders. New Russian Empire. Let me find that explicit. You need to register to keep reading. Honestly. Here, hold on. President Vladimir Putin has compared himself to Peter the Great, saying that he shares the 18th century Tsar's goal of returning Russian lands to a greater empire. It's from June 10th, 2022. No, there was more explicit. There was like a direct quote. Yeah, if somebody can find it, they can show it to me. Here's your vid. History have called us. Here's my vid. But this is my vid. I thought you meant here's your vid, like here's what you're looking for. It's just me. Hi. Battlefield for our people, for great historical Russia, for future generations, our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. This is just the 14 words. They're invading and they bring country. That hair, why does my hair look like this? That's insane. Why does it look like that? Channeling Leon? Your Noah Samson arc? Yeah. Want to be a part of the U.S. and the Soviet Union? This is just the 14 words. This is, however, at the same time, you have a little question stuff higher. Did Here's the Empire stuff. Equally worrying is that Putin's February 21st speech referred quite explicitly to restoring not the Soviet Union, but the Russian Empire as it existed prior to 1917. That not only calls into question all the former Soviet states, but also a large part of Poland, including Warsaw, which was part of the Russian Empire. Yeah, okay, yeah. I knew I remember him explicitly saying this. But dude, trust me, just surrendering to him and letting him completely control Ukraine, it's the only way forward. All right, get me out of here. Get me out of here. All right, no RE4. We did 3 hours of segments. Nope, this was meant to be a short stream. I'm already coughing when I raise my voice, okay? The whole point is pacing this, all right? Besides, my editors are suffering for segments, okay? You guys see this? Yeah, blame politics frogs who kept linking stuff.
Getting out of hands these days.
I've had enough of this. This punishment stuff is going to stop.
You're not going to tell me what I'm going to do and not do?
I am now the alpha.
Right.
That's not how this works.
Wait. Hassan doubled down in this clip? Did he?
How is that pro-war? Ukraine didn't start the war. Supplying a defender is a righteous thing. I know it is. You're right. Okay, listen. Russia started the war. Russia is responsible. I agree. Okay, I do not disagree with this. But when Marjorie Taylor Greene turns around and says, "Why can't we push for peace?" and you come across by you counter that by saying, "Well, peace is maybe not so good in this situation because what if Putin then goes into Poland?"
What? Hey. When the fascist says, "What if we support the fascist country? What are we to do but not agree with them?" What? When are we really saying Marjorie Taylor Greene's like optics here as an avatar for foreign policy is something that we have to like build our messaging around? Like, oh yeah, I was gonna support Ukraine against a fascist takeover, but then a local fascist defended seceding to or like a peace deal that favored Russia, and then now I have to.
Poland, or what if China goes into fucking Ukraine, or what if China goes into Taiwan?
What the China going into Ukraine? If China goes into Taiwan, we defend Taiwan. We have a defensive treaty with them.
All of a sudden, you're defending it with other hypotheticals when she's basically talking about something that might even be completely unrealistic. Okay? But the counter to that should be, no, we want peace too.
Yes, we want peace, but not on the invading country's terms, okay?
That's what she said. Why are you saying Taiwan, Lamau? That's literally what she said. She said, what if China goes into Taiwan?
Do you think it's just an inability to admit he's wrong? He can't admit that he's wrong. I've never seen him admit, like he could barely admit he was wrong when the Russian soldiers crossed over the border, like right after he was gloating about how the U.S. State Department was wrong in saying that the war was about to begin. I remember like so many, the U.S. State Department was like, yeah, dude, they're going to invade on the 18th. And then on the 19th, everyone, including Hassan, was like, nye, 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 nye. And then they invaded on like the 20th or something, 21st or whatever.
Ask the chatters if he was advocating for supplying Donbass with weapons in 2014 when Ukraine started shelling. See if they're consistent. No, because they're not consistent. They already made up the fucking part in their heads. If they knew enough about it, then they would say, well, technically it was Russia that started the proxy.
You have to go back 9 years. Like, oh, okay, you agree with the liberal democracy over the fascists when the fascists invaded this time? All right, well, where were you 9 years ago in the much more niche question? Yeah, when you were in middle school, what were you doing? Yeah.
War in Donbass and LPR and DPR by, sending the green men, sending like...
Russia was slaughtering us back too. Yeah, that was an invasion. The invasion began in 2014. 2022 was just like a massive increase in the severity, an escalation.
Special ops people. They mostly don't even fucking know. They don't care. They're just like repeating shit that they heard on MSNBC, and it doesn't even fucking matter. Okay? It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Neville Chamberlain of the 21st century? That's a stretch? Okay, dude. Dude. We're not relitigating the Ukraine shit, okay? The opposite of appeasement is awarment, okay?
That's true. I'm pushing for awarment. Let's go. I like how that's sort of like an implicit acknowledgement that he is in fact pushing for appeasement as a political, okay. Yes, I am an awarment enjoyer. This is true. Many such cases. No, he'll never move over on this, man. I really feel like people like Hassan think that in retrospect they're going to be celebrated, like the people who were against the Iraq War. Like they think like, okay, man, like yeah, liberal media is against us now, but in the long term they'll. But like, no one's gonna look back and go, yeah, those people who wanted Zelensky to surrender early to the fascists invading him, yeah, that was they were real prescient. At least Ethan's audience is normal. Yeah, I wish I could appeal more to Ethan's audience. I feel like I'd actually get along really well with a lot of them.
I'm believing Russia Today again. Oh my God, I am not. I don't give a fuck about Russia Today. Russia Today is unhinged. There's nothing to believe in Russia Today because in the very same news block, they will spend an hour talking or 35 minutes talking about how fucking, it's anti-colonial action that we need to engage in, and then immediately turn around and be like, trans people should be melted, as a matter of fact, and America's woke culture is prevailing and depraving the entirety of the Western world. Which
wonder if there's some kind of parallel between defending Russia and being far right. Makes you wonder.
Which once was superior. You know what I mean? They don't have any fucking takes. They just say literally anything and everything so that you will agree with them. That's it. I'm not a fucking idiot. If anything, I'm trying to educate you on media literacy. Bringing up Russia Today is such a stupid fucking argument here. I have advocated against Russia Today, or rather talked about how Russia Today is there's no ideology behind the commentary that they cut beyond just like mass chaos and confusion.
No, it's anti-American. Russia Today isn't totally ubiquitous and neutral and all over the place. It's anti-American. They'll promote right-leaning or left-leaning perspectives as long as it sows criticism, discontent, and distrust in the West. Actually, a lot of his perspective makes sense if you realize he doesn't know that, because it's not totally disorganized. There aren't neocons and pro-American jingoist types on RT. They're not there. In fact, they're one of the only ideologies that isn't there. And that's because RT, a Kremlin-backed media group, is primarily interested in using a a cacophony of different ideologies to promote a general distrust of the West within the West, and without the West as well, of course, but primarily within the West. That's the reason why these takes are the way they are. It's why, like, my broad criticism of the left is this kind of like general anti-Americanism, which, again, being anti-American is based, but you can be against a bad thing without then defending other things that dislike the bad thing, you know? Like, you can be anti-American, but then not be pro-ISIS. But there are a lot of lefties who genuinely seem to think that Russia and China represent some kind of like multi-polar bulwark against Western imperialism, which they don't, and even if they did, it would not be desirable. He doesn't mean to defend it. I genuinely don't think. No. I do not think that Hassan is dishonest. I think that he's swam in the morass of America bad first. I don't know, America last foreign policy takes. And it informs, and he gets angry and frustrated. He would, if he was watching me right now, he would get really upset that I keep saying he's defending Russia, because he's not. If I asked him, like, hey, how do you feel about Russia? He would probably call it a fascist country. He would probably call Putin a fascist, so on and so forth. But the thing is, you are promoting pro-Russian talking points by framing the Russian-Ukraine conflict in the way that he does. And that's the confusion, and that's what he gets frustrated with. If he was genuinely pro-Russian, like ideologically pro-Russian, he wouldn't respond with frustration. He would talk down to these people. But he's mad because he feels like a bunch of liberals are constantly misinterpreting his nuanced worldview as being pro-Russian. But what he doesn't realize is that his nuanced worldview isn't. It's not a nuanced worldview. It's a deeply propagandistic one. It's skewed towards Russian interests, or at least anti-American interests. So he doesn't necessarily understand the bias with which he's speaking. Now, I can't even speak for Richard Wolff, man. Richard Wolff is fucking insane, dude. And Noam Chomsky, don't even start it. I could beat that guy in an arm wrestling contest easily. But I don't think that Hassan is dishonest. And you know, people in chat like to give him shit because everyone looks like a dumbass compared to me, including all of you. I don't think Hassan's stupid either. This is a pretty common ideological trap. It's literally been it's literally taken down like Noam Chomsky. If Noam Chomsky has fallen for this like multipolar America bad shit, one of the most cited academics in the history of the West, a person for whom I had an enormous amount of respect until relatively recently. Like, I obviously can't say Noam Chomsky is dumb. And I don't think that Hassan's dumb either. I just think that he's really emotional, which is why he responds to criticism so badly. We should be like this guy.
I am the teacher.
The alpha takes priority over the teacher. The alpha takes priority over everything. Do you not know how that works?
The teacher is telling the alpha to sit in this seat right now.
And the alpha doesn't have to listen to orders from its
I tweeted that. Well, you don't have to listen, but the consequences that follow are going to still apply to the alpha.
The alpha doesn't take punishment.
Let's see how well that works out for him, okay?
Based. That kid's probably a special needs kid. I don't know. Is that like the special needs class? You can tell that a teacher is a special needs teacher because they're totally checked out. And that guy sounds pretty checked out. I don't know. Probably shouldn't laugh, but it's pretty like objectively funny. So yeah, I don't know. Also, it's ableist to say you can't laugh at special needs people making buffoons of themselves sometimes. You shouldn't always, like, it's kind of contextual, but hey, if they're people too, and they are, then that means that they're responsible for their behavior too, and that means that sometimes you gotta laugh, you know? Yeah, official Voshite position. I'm coming out in favor of making fun of special needs high schoolers, okay? Yeah, hey, I'm special needs, okay? I have a special need for your donations. Speaking of, I'm going to read them. I feel like we've given the editors some stuff to work with. Play RE4. Nah, dude, it's 3 hours. I wanted this to be a 3-hour stream max. We're not doing games on top of this. Tomorrow morning we're going to stream. There's a lot of stuff going on tomorrow, including, by the way, elections. We'll see how well Progressive Victory is done. If of course, if it doesn't go well, we'll blame them specifically. If they have the mental capacity of a child, why should we laugh? Like what, lol, or how are they responsible? Well, first of all, we do laugh at kids making buffoons of themselves, right? And also, even if a person is like mentally challenged or whatever, I still think they're responsible for their behavior. I mean, unless they're like really mentally challenged. But that guy's behavior right there, the way he, okay, I'll put it this way. The way he was acting, the only reason we're keying in on the mental disability thing is because of his voice. There are plenty of neurotypical people who basically do that shit. Like, I knew people back in high school who did the fucking Naruto run up and down the hallways, and I don't know if they were neurotypical. They didn't have like Downs or whatever. Like maybe they were autistic or some shit. But like, I'm allowed to laugh at that. It's fucking America. I'm allowed to laugh at that shit. You know? That was me. I played Guitar Hero once in the hallway on like a Halloween day, I think. We had like a mini speaker and like screen set up, and I played through the Fire and Flames. That was pretty cringe. I think I had a fedora on, but I was 13. That's based as fuck. Yeah. Yeah, it probably is. It was cringe until you mentioned the fedora. Gotcha. All right, here, 1 second. Denibo. Look at this beautiful, perfect little man. Earlier today, he fell asleep while laying on my chest while I was laying in bed for a bit, and then he sneezed twice right on my face. You are disgusting. He's looking at you. He's looking. Meat. All right. All right. There. Set him down. All right. Oh, sorry. Let me read these quickly. I know we're not doing RE4 tonight, but have you seen Mauschly yet? Dude, I have been liking, and I have liked maybe like 24 Mauschly art things on my main Twitter. It's so good. So fucking cute, dude. Ooms. Ashley from Resident Evil 4, except she's a mouse. It's so cute. It's so fucking cute, dude. I crave cheese. Why is she a mouse? Because it's cute. I actually think it's a pretty strong indication of how it's possible to have a really healthy and respectful appreciation of characters in a story, even if, like, Ashley is literally a damsel in distress. There's no way around that. You know what I mean? There's not even anything about the trope that's like subverted either. She's just a damsel in distress. But everyone loves Ashley anyway. I mean, they love Mauschly at least. Where's that beautiful animation? Did I retweet it? Oh, that's a bare ass. That's sex. This one? Thank you. No, not this one. Though this one is also extremely good. The one where the merchant offers the cheese and she runs screaming, "Help me, Leon." This one's also very good, though. Oh my god, it's so cute. Oh, it's so cute. Look at her. Help me, Leon. I can hear the GIF. Yeah, me too. It reads really well. I have to ask why. Why is it cute to see a tiny mouse girl get excited when she sees cheese and then run back to camera shouting for Leon to buy it for her? That's like so cute. That's like conceptually, it's so cute. This was the original, by the way. Yeah, this is the original one. This is where it all started. I crave cheese, Leon. No, why are we randomly turning a woman into a mouse? Why not? Why not? Why can't she be a mouse? Yeah, she's cheese to meet you. Haters be like, you'll never be a mouse. Yeah, seriously. It inspired so much positive creativity. Yeah, here we go. I meet someone. I am cheese to meet them. The authorities cannot find enough evidence to make the charges stick. The case goes cold. I meet someone. I am cheese to meet them. The authorities cannot find enough evidence to make the charges stick. Maybe Hunger Master. Yeah, we all want cheese. Daniil. He's being so cute. We need to get him fixed. He has balls. It's so weird. Artemy doesn't have balls. Pigeon doesn't have balls, obviously. But he has balls. He'll like walk by and he's got like fucking balls in his silhouette. What the fuck are you doing with those? It's so weird. He's a ball haver. Show us, baby. I just showed Daniil. And Artemy's right there. Is he gonna be deballed? Yeah, you should deball your cats. It's good to do that. Okay, donations. Seriously this time. Oh my god, Daniil, you're gonna fall off. No, oh my god, Daniil. He's fine. He had rolled onto his butt so he could lick his balls, and he rolled right off the top of my computer. And I was just barely too slow to grab his butt before he fell off. But he's fine. And back to licking his butt. Okay, still live. Thank you for the $2. I'll cover that tomorrow, probably. Charlotte21, thanks for the gifted tier 2 sub. Sake, thank you for the 2 gifted tier 1 subs. I think I've seen some comparison photos between the babies now and then, for sure. K Comrade Robin Hood, thank you for the $5. Yeah, we have to talk about the Azerbaijani and Armenian stuff again. Yeah. M68 Ken, thank you for the $32. Really appreciate that. Many Russians nowadays apparently claim Alaska was only leased or rented out to the US and believe Russia should take it back. Yeah, it's a population that lives in a dictatorship that consumes media exclusively produced by an ultra-nationalist Kremlin. It makes sense. They're going insane. It needs to stop. Cult of Ayas and Warbad, thanks to tier 2 subs both. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Warbad. Darth Nihilist, thank you for the $5. Maybe. Deep Sea Fission, thanks to the tier 1 sub. TOMJ, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Really appreciate that.
Feel about.
I think hamburgers and cheeseburgers work well with fries. I have no idea what this is, but I agree that those things are tasty. Avinasa, thanks to $25. Thanks for being based. My pleasure, always. Jatsko and Balduris, thank you for the $5 both. Really appreciate that. I'll look at MMT one of these days. Jatsko says, Innuendo Studios disagrees with the don't protest the provocateurs in their video, The Cost of Doing Business. The first 5 minutes might be something to check out. Maybe. Innuendo Studios has some banger videos, but there is a major problem with him, and that's that he really dislikes me. And I know it kind of sounds like a meme, but I really don't trust people who dislike me. I think it generally kind of like coincides with some pretty bad ideas. And yeah, he also shares my name. It's not good. Not good. The Dougster 99 at Ethan 112. Thank you for the $5 both. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you, the Dougster 99. We absolutely can win as long as we try hard. Sake, thank you for the 4 gifted tier 1 subs. I agree that John Brown's Samurai Club would look quite a bit better than the John Brown Gun Club. And with the 2 tier 1 subs, I don't think there's any legacy subscription tracker, which is unfortunate, Sake, because you would look quite good in those, I figure. Juliet Benito, thank you for the $5. Much appreciated. Probably not. Under the Thunder, thank you for the $10. Not gonna lie, as a trans girl who grew up incredibly socially isolated on incest porn, okay, the idea of women sexually servicing their son sounds more like porn than reality. Congrats on typing that out one-handed. Again, I'm sure it is represented far more in pornography than it is in Japanese culture. People in chat are not going to understand the context of that, and they're not going to be happy with it. Not even a little bit. Peak Height, thank you for the $5. Recently been watching Folding Ideas. Folding Ideas is phenomenal. However, I don't think he likes me. Just a feeling I have. I DM'd him on Twitter once to tell him I really loved one of his videos. I didn't get a response. Probably thinks I'm a terrible person. I don't really know. But I like him. Fully support Folding Ideas. 100%. I support him. Red Stick Goblin and Title Punk Roller Girl, thank you for the tier 1 subs both. I really appreciate that. Pro Slur Charlie. Yeah.
Aren't you using more slurs? Why don't you drop more racist slurs?
It's like he's speaking to me directly. Thank you. Cryptic Allegory, thank you for the $20. I really appreciate that. My condolences to whoever has to spend time in a closed room with Donnie tomorrow. So many nervous KFC farts. Keep on keeping on, V. I don't think Donald Trump is capable of perceiving risk, to be honest. I think he's doing just fine. Flashfire 33 and Republic of Milk. Thanks to the tier 1 subs both. Really appreciate that. I guess we'll see Republic of Milk. Penguin Balls, thank you for the $5. Really appreciate that. Then the $20 from Penguin Balls as well. It's very kind of you. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. They use this in a way to try to make it sound like scientists are lying about things like climate change, but really the quote is more about despite making up 13% of the population. Yeah, like anti-empiricist behavior from the right is really difficult to deal with. Generally speaking, I advise against engaging with people who are out on that level. Charlotte21, thank you for the 3 gifted tier 2 subs. Very kind of you. I appreciate that. K-Red, Mellow Willow, Velbel again, and Boy Meets Mini, thanks to the tier 1 subs. Balduris, thank you likewise. Really appreciate that. I'm glad you're enjoying your time with the SPD youth. And I hope it's going well. Thank you. It's very kind of you. Sake, thanks the 2 gifted tier 1 subs. Okay, buddy, Vaushwin. Okay, listen, sometime soon. Got stuff to do. Orange August, thanks the tier 4 sub. Very kind of you. What am I supposed to do? Be a white name? Lose all sense of self-respect? No. Was never an option for you. AI Fucker 69, thank you for the $5. Maybe it is true that Monsanto is indeed Satan. Christ of King, thank you so much for the incredibly kind tier 4 sub. I really appreciate that. Welcome back, King. I've had to watch the 4-hour hippy dippy debates where you solo a whole panel to fill the void, pop a Benadryl, and tell the hat man I said hi. I'll keep it in mind. Sorry, though. Those panels are painful to get through. I despise panels. I always have. No, Redman, I have not. Holy shit, Rodzilla 2K, are you okay? Jesus Christ, if you're all so fucking horny for it. 1 second. Can I even find it? Yeah, that is immediately a porn link. I am 100% positive that I saw a news article on this at some point in my life. Does anyone else remember that? Does anyone else remember an article that was made which said that the state of affairs in Japan was so bad that there was like, they said in the article it was an epidemic. It definitely wasn't. It was sensationalist to say that. Of like moms who wanted their sons to get into a good college. So to study for the college entrance exams, they were like, okay, well, I'll just fuck you so you don't go looking for a girlfriend. You are manifesting. I distinctly remember this. I think I remember more than one article because more articles were written off of the first article. That's totally fake, Lamau. Yeah, well, I'm not arguing whether or not it actually happened. I'm arguing whether or not an article was written. I think this was back when I was in high school. It could have been more than a decade ago. I absolutely remember that. Okay, it's not just me. Okay, I've heard this wild claim before. I've heard that before. Would never be able to remember. Okay. Some people remember. This could literally be from like over a decade ago. It was certainly before I started streaming. I think before I went to college. So it would have been like way earlier. Even if I did remember this one, I'd still lie and say I have no idea what you're talking about. That's fair. That's probably fair. Vosh, would you say there's any similarity between animals getting fixed and them getting declawed / humans getting circumcision? No, I don't think so. At all. Declawing cats is bad because it's like psychologically damaging. It's like cutting off our fingernails. It's like physically and like they need those claws. You can trim their claws, but they need to keep the claws. Humans getting circumcised is an unnecessary violation of their bodily autonomy. We don't really care about the bodily autonomy of our pets because they're not people. We don't respect their bodily autonomy. We don't ask their permission before taking them to the vet, after all. We can't. We have to make decisions that are good for them. And I'll tell you, if you know anything about what female cats are like when they're in heat or male cats when they're in boy heat or whatever, getting them fixed is the right move. You don't want them getting randomly pregnant. You don't want them freaking out and making a mess everywhere. You don't want them to have a litter of kittens that you can't take care of and you fucking throw them into a river or whatever horrible shit you do. You don't want any of that. Not to mention, like, all cat sex is rape, I'm pretty sure. So, like, I have 2 male cats and a female cat. Do I want that in my house? Like, is this like a dynamic that I want? No, of course not. It doesn't hurt them to get them fixed. I mean, I'm sure they're uncomfortable for like a little while afterwards because they have stitches, but you know, it doesn't like long term hurt them, you know. So like human sex, basically. Well, cats are one of those animals where they have mating seasons. Humans aren't. Humans are year-round ubiquitous, which means that our sex drives are naturally built into our post-pubescent psychological profile. Whereas for cats, they have heat periods, which makes them insanely fucking annoying. Like they're annoying and they're messy. And do you want to deal with a female cat having a period? You guys are gross. No. Yeah, and it reduces the risk of cancer. Yeah, they start pissing everywhere. Yeah. It's just, yeah. You can fix a female cat? Yeah. Pigeon had her, I don't know, uterus removed or something. Spading, that's what it's called. Female cats and heat are low-key creepy. It's just, yeah, it's spaying, not spading. Yeah, spaying, yeah. Okay. Big Boy Butches, thanks the $5. Vosh, this is supposed to be the same character after she lost weight. What? Dude, it's so fucking funny how bad anime is at representing fat people. I don't even need some kind of like woke fucking whatever. Why did her hair change color? How did that happen? Why are her eyes different? What, like, okay, yeah. All right. Calvin Garbasic, thank you for the $2. Try SMT stuff. I don't know what that is. Soulman, thank you for the $20. Rabid nonviolence really works, y'all. MLK Jr. was absolutely correct in his approach. The rest of the world saw the actual state cracking people's heads open just for walking around in an organized fashion. Yeah, I think a lot of people really just don't like the nonviolence thing, even though it's been objectively proven to be more effective. Is because it comes off like kind of cucked, you know? But that sounds like the kind of excuse that I would make, like, fake. I would fake make. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sake, thanks the 4 gifted tier 1 subs. Bring gochujang, Korean fermented chili paste, to all protests in case they're not spicy enough. True. Actually, pre-rub hot sauce in your eyeballs beforehand, so that way pepper spray won't work on you. Apparently, mother-son incest is common in Japan. This is an article from 1997. Wow, okay. An archive from the spectator.co.uk from the 18th of January, 1997. What is the most common problem you have to deal with? I asked the young Japanese psychoanalyst. Incest, she replied immediately. Japanese boys have their first experience of sex with their mothers. Is this the actual article that I remember? Because this would have been... I was 3 years old when this article came out, but this... I feel like that opener sounds familiar. I don't know how much of this is like... All I said was that I remember the article. I didn't say anything about it being true. This brings us to the most critical functions that Japanese mothers perform for their sons: marriage and education, the success of the former being largely dependent on academic advancement. This perhaps is the crux of the mother-son relationship. Advancement in Japan is entirely dependent on academic achievement, and by Western standards, remarkable sacrifices are made. Cramming schools. What's with these dashes? I feel like that's because of the scanlation that they did, like an automatic thing. Next page. Is it still the same? No, it's not. Does it not load? I found the article you were talking about. From 1993. One day he was offered and received sexual favors from his mothers to encourage him to persevere with his schoolwork. That had to be it. This has to be it. This is the one that I remember. This is from before I was born, which means that this article or screenshots of it, or maybe an archived link to it or a repost of it or something, must have made the rounds online sometime when I was in high school. That's what I remember it from. I was right. Thank you, guys. Okay, I was right. It wasn't some fucking N hentai dojin or some shit. It's an actual actual articles. This is from the Independent. Like, that's, you know, I don't know much about the Spectator, but the Independent I think is generally relatively reliable. I can read enough of this shit on Reddit. Yeah, well. The Independent is trash. Am I misremembering? Maybe I am. Apparently it was a media panic and not a real thing. Okay, well, I acknowledged that possibility when I initially said that. So I'm not... And obviously, like, it's happened more than 0 times because everything has happened more than 0 times. Whether or not it's like a big epidemic is, you know, the media lies about that shit all the time. You know, like, yeah. Mother-son incest is unheard of. I doubt it's common. I think I remember a more reputable... this was more recently. I think I remember... they were talking with like a psychiatrist or something, incest is, compared to what people think, relatively common. If you factor in like cousins, depending on where you are in the world, it's not just common, it's socially accepted. There are lots of places in the world where like second cousin, I think, is like just considered fine. And first cousin is like a dirty secret, but not a huge deal in a lot of the world, I think. But then as for like immediate family incest, I think they still said it's like way, way, way more common than people think. And it's usually siblings fucking around and then stopping, or far more likely, far more common, it's a parent raping their child, which, you know, I've heard, you know, many top minds have told me that's bad. So probably not good there. Not even to speak of the you know, the white woman dog pill phenomena, which, you know, God only can know, can speculate. Quote, QGJ quote about French films. Oh yeah, that's right. um yeah. What was it? Some French film where the boy has a sexual experience with his mother or something like that. And he's like, it's nice, it's nice. There's something like that. Sorry. Okay, we have to finish this. We have to let me out of here. The random rabbit with the incredibly kind $50. I really appreciate that. Bosch, do you think cranial binding has any potential to fix what's wrong with the Caucasoid skull shape? If so, could it make the whinging cease and we could tap into that African ability to invent all kinds of musical genres? Well, I can't really speak to the racial element, but I've always thought that maybe we could like try tilting the skull pan up. So like you have like the face, right? And then you have like the skull pan. But what if we tilted it like this? So our heads don't go out the back, but they kind of just are taller. We've got really big foreheads. Maybe it would help, maybe it wouldn't. I really have no idea. Yeah, do kind of a cone head thing. Yeah. I saw tequila. And Rini Uwu, thanks the $5. Happy to hear your Taiwanese and trans flags came in nicely. In the classic trans flag fashion, not ironing. Phenomenal. I don't even remember what ironed trans flags look like. I feel like I'd have to deep fake one. I'd have to stable diffusion one because I can't picture. It'd be transphobic to iron the flag. Well, I am transphobic, so you know, it's fine. I've seen Flashy Job. No, we're 30 minutes over. We're 30 minutes over the upper estimate of what this stream was supposed to be. I'm streaming tomorrow morning. I love you guys, okay? Sibling incest still isn't great as well, TBH. All right, now to be clear, when I said that parents raping their children was bad, I was not implying that siblings having sex with each other was good. Just to clear up the you know, the implicit statements here, I just want to lay it on the table, flatten that out, just so everyone knows. That's not what Pornhub says. Yeah, well, actually, doesn't Pornhub only have step stuff on it? Pornhub was one of those uh, more professional sites, I think, where they're more careful about the obscenity laws. I think technically not the not step thing crosses the obscenity marker, doesn't it? Yeah, to dodge obscenity laws, yeah. Only fake step stuff. You say fake step, it's like fake step like they actually are siblings. That's the horror of modernity. It's that all of the real brother sister porn star couples on Pornhub they had a market and it was a big one, and then they have to market it as step. Now like everyone's step, you know, it's like, you know, they can't show their driver's licenses and be like, see, look, because they have to not run afoul of the obscenity law. Yeah. 1984. You're telling me porn is fake? Yes, all of the step sibling incest porn is actually real sibling incest porn. They're lying to you. All right, that's enough. We're not making any more jokes about this bullshit. Okay, we need to keep the theming consistent. We make horse jokes about me and my stream, and we keep it there. You know, we keep it consistent. I love you all very much. I'm going to send you over to the one, the only. You know, let's say Xander Hall. I'm gonna throw you over to Xander Hall. Xan the man, Xan the main man, Xanin. Ooh, he's gonna Xan with the master plan. Let's go. Oh, before I go, has anyone seen that one TV show with the weird art style? The one that has Bob Odenkirk as one of the leads. It's like a 28-year-old daughter is hyper neurotic, and then I don't want to spoil, but stuff happens. Undone. How many people have seen Undone? I feel like nobody's seen Undone. 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. 8.2 on IMDb. 4.4 on Amazon Video. Not bad. Oh, it won the Annecy International Animation Film Festival Award. Writers Guild of America Award in Animation. Okay, yeah. It's pretty all right. It's pretty all right. All right, get out of here. Go, go, go. Go, go, go. Where's the button? There it is. Go, 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 go.